Chapter 1260. Li Wubo paced a few steps in the room, his eyes flashing. Finally, he pursed his lips and made up his mind. Slamming the table, he shouted, "Relay my orders immediately." Chu Yang stayed in the purple crystal mine for 2 consecutive days, waiting for Li Wubo to make a move. Of course, he knew that if Li Wubo really confirmed the news about Lang Yilang, he would definitely not tell him. He would only keep it for himself. Therefore, he needed to observe from any clues. Finally, on this day, Chu Yang discovered that the purple crystal mine was releasing large amounts of purple crystals. Chu Yang pulled Li Qingliu over and asked, "What's going on? These purple crystals aren't even enough for my own use. Why are they still coming out?" Li Qingliu had a bitter look on his face. "Lord Zi, the clan really needs to use them. What's the big deal? How dare you use my purple crystals?" Chu Yang said furiously, "Leave them all here." Li Qingliu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Do you really freaking think that these purple crystals are all yours? Who do you think you are? It's the clan leader's request." Under Chu Yang's abuse of power, Li Qingliu finally said it. "The clan leader's request. Damn it. Lord Zi cursed." "Then," he said, "we'll start the big explosion today." Since Li Wubo had started to release large amounts of purple crystals, he was definitely going to take action. And it was going to be a large-scale operation. The time he would spend outside would also be very long. If it was for a short period of time, he wouldn't need to bring so many purple crystals out. At a time like this, other than discovering Lang Yilang's whereabouts, Chu Yang couldn't think of any other reason for Li Wubo to take action on such a large scale. Since that was the case, it was time for him to leave. However, with the Li clan watching him so closely, how he was going to leave was a big problem. Big explosion? Really? Li Qingliu was overjoyed. Chu Yang snorted and waved his hand in a show of force. Li Qingliu suddenly realized that there was a thick purple aura on Lord Zi's hand that couldn't be dissolved. Especially those purple threads that could break through sharp edges. At first, there were only 1 or 2 threads, but now, they covered his entire hand and there were at least 10 million of them. Li Qingliu was overjoyed at once. Then, his heart ached. 3 million purple crystals in exchange for such purple threads. Upon hearing the news of the explosion, Li Wubo and the other supreme martial artists rushed over immediately. Li Wubo didn't forget to protect Lord Zi. He sent a 5th-grade supreme martial artist behind Chu Yang to make preparations. He was prepared to rescue Lord Zi at any moment. Right in front of him, Lord Zi stood tall and proud in the face of that empty treasure trove. While everyone waited with bated breaths, Lord Zi suddenly moved. Hey tilde 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 ya tilde tilde tilde. An extremely strange moan that sounded like a constipation came out of Lord Zi's mouth. Patriarch Li and the others felt their buttholes tighten at the same time. His back felt cold. It was too embarrassing. Following which, Lord Zi puffed out his chest abruptly, becoming as lofty as a mountain. Her 2 hands began to move in front of her chest like butterflies. After his upper body reached a certain limit, he began to lower his body. First, she twisted her waist. Her waist rotated to the left and right like an electric motor. Then, she swayed her buttocks. After making a few coquettish gestures and movements, her waist and buttocks swayed rapidly like a pole dancer. Watching from the back, Li Qingliu, Li Wubo, and the others simultaneously felt as if they had entered a brothel. It was unbearable to look at. Then, Lord Zi let out a loud shout, and the purple light in his hands shone brightly. Everyone widened their eyes. Knowing that Lord Zi was about to explode, they all began to make preparations and circulate their energy. Their eyes shone brightly, like leopards that were about to go on a rampage. But, the moment the purple light shone in Lord Zi's hands, he actually retracted it. Then, he began to repeat the previous set of movements. Everyone was speechless. After a series of strange movements, Lord Zi let out another loud roar. The purple light shone brightly. Everyone's hearts tightened, and they made preparations again. Lord Zi retracted the purple light again. Behind him, there were already people gritting their teeth. Is this fellow deliberately toying with us? Then, another loud roar sounded. This process continued for a total of 8 times. At the back, Li Wubo, and the others were speechless and speechless. They stood there in a daze, as if they had been struck by lightning. Brother, can you be so hypocritical? You said that you only needed to do it once. Doing it 8 times in a row. What's the point of that? When it came to the 9th time, everyone closed their eyes and sighed, not even moving their bodies. Damn it. They would just take it as watching a show. All of a sudden, with a loud boom, there was an explosion that felt like a landslide. Everyone was dumbfounded. Lord Z's flustered and exasperated voice could be heard. Quick, catch me. But at this time, the experts in charge of receiving Lord Z were already stunned. How could they possibly react? Everyone opened their eyes and watched helplessly as a violent explosion occurred in front of them. Powerful gusts of air flew everywhere, and then, Lord Z was struck by the gusts of air. With a tragic cry, he flew out, flailing his arms and legs in the air. In mid-air, they saw fresh blood all over his body. Then, Lord Z opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone only had time to circulate their energy to protect themselves during this explosion. The explosion was over. When everyone looked over, they were both overjoyed and speechless at the same time. What they were overjoyed about was that a huge hole had already appeared in that indestructible purple crystal mine. It was the size of a water tank and several feet deep. Although it hadn't been completely opened, the current situation was already several hundred times bigger than that basketball-sized hole from before. This progress was simply a shocking miracle. Everyone believed that as long as this happened 1 or 2 more times, it would definitely be opened. But what they were speechless about was that Lord Z's face was covered in blood and his body was covered in wounds. Blood was bubbling out of his mouth and his eyes were lifeless. It was obvious that he was exhaling more than he was inhaling. It was as if he was on his deathbed. How was he going to continue? Lord Z landed with a thud right in front of Li Wubo. No one knew where he got the strength from when he was so severely injured. He grabbed the lower hem of Li Wubo's clothes and looked up with gritted teeth. You. Didn't you say that you had arranged for experts to get me out? Where are they? Li Wubo was speechless. I did make arrangements, but you were twisting your waist and swinging your butt, roaring one after another. Who knew which roar would start? When everyone was in despair, you just had to make a move. How can you blame me for this? But, this matter. Li Wubo was really in the wrong. If I told you, would you know what method I would use? Would you know how many times I would need to use my luck? Therefore, Li Wubo could only accept Lord Z's fury with a dumbfounded look on his face. I wasn't fooling around. I gathered all my energy and unleashed it all at once. You pig. Lord Z's words made Li Wubo's face turn red. Fortunately, Lord Z fainted immediately. Otherwise, Li Wubo felt that he would definitely be scolded by all his ancestors. Quick. Carry Lord Z back quickly and take good care of him. Li Wubo was extremely regretful. In his heart, Chu Yang had already risen to the level of a national treasure. Such a sturdy purple crystal mine and such a passageway had been blasted open. If he hadn't been negligent, wouldn't he have been able to see the treasure within a few days after this? It's all my fault, the Li clan leader blamed himself. You said that you were patient even when you visited the brothel. Why did you lose your patience when faced with Lord Z's antics? Sigh, he quickly arranged for doctors and experts to escort Lord Z back to recuperate, as though he was escorting his own mother. The top doctors of the Li clan also hurriedly came over and followed them. As he watched Lord Z being carried away, Li Wubo let out a bitter laugh in embarrassment. He went forward to check on the opening this time. The more he looked, the more ecstatic he felt. The size of a water tank and a depth of 40 to 50 feet. It was practically big enough to accommodate people. This was really a surprising progress. Treat Lord Z with all your might at all cost. Let Lord Z recover as soon as possible. Li Wubo ordered sternly. Yes. Chu Yang lay weakly on the bed, watching the 2 doctors bustling about with worried faces. With Chu Yang's cultivation and the sword spirit's means, pretending to be seriously injured was really as easy as eating broad beans. Right now, these 2 doctors of the Li clan were stumped. What should they do? Lord Z was hanging on by a thread. They didn't even dare to use any medicine. With such serious injuries, the clan actually gave them a death order. They had to make Lord Z stand up within 7 days. At the thought of this, the two doctors wanted to bang their heads against the wall. 7 days. It's already a miracle that we can keep Lord Z alive for 7 days, much less stand up. That's practically a myth. The two doctors sighed, and then sighed again. They were helpless. At night, seeing that this Lord Z was stubbornly hanging on by a thread, the two of them were more or less relieved. The waves of clan elders who came to visit had already left. Of course, these elders all thought that Lord Z was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Besides, they didn't have any guard up against him. One of them stroked his beard and said, "Brothers, this old man will be leading the team to set off in the wee hours of this morning. When the time comes, I won't bid farewell to all of you." Yes. This was a low-grade supreme martial artist. The others were naturally reassured by his strength and said a few words of bon voyage. Of course. To Lord Z, who was lying on the bed, this sentence of setting off in the wee hours of this morning was the most crucial. The night watchman sounded. Deep into the night. Seeing that it was almost the wee hours of the morning, all was quiet. Lord Z suddenly said something vaguely. The two doctors hurried over. "This is great news. He can speak now," but the moment they went over, the two of them felt the world spinning around them. Then, they lost consciousness. Lord Z sat up slowly and looked at his clothes. Then, he nimbly removed the elder's robe and gently put it on himself. Then, he took a bronze mirror and put on makeup in front of it, making himself look exactly like this doctor. Enduring the pain, he adjusted the muscles on his face. Finally, he sprinkled some powder on his hair, which instantly turned white. Then, he shaved off the elder's goatee and carefully stuck it on his chin. Then, he pretended to cough. Yes, his voice sounded old. Cough. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep last night. He tossed and turned on the bed. At 4 o'clock in the wee hours of the morning, he was tragically kicked off the bed by a certain someone who couldn't take it anymore. He had no choice but to sleep on the sofa for a while. Cough. He participated in an activity on the Pride Book review page on the mobile network last night. Sadly, he didn't know how to do it. 5 teachers came to teach him, but the more they taught him, the more numb his limbs became. When he finally managed to find his way up, it only showed the author's ID and not the author's account. He was so ashamed that he couldn't show his face. Chapter 1261. Then, with a bang sound, Chu Yang threw the remaining person's head into a coma and stuffed it under the bed. The old gentleman was still unconscious on the bed. Chu Yang covered him with a blanket, and he faced the inside. Then, he walked out with a worried look. "Old gentleman, how's Lord Z's injury?" The few people waiting outside asked anxiously. Cough. "Lord Z's illness is no small matter. I need to go out and pick the herbs immediately. You guys stay here and watch. I've already used the divine needle technique to lock Lord Z's vitality so that it won't leak out. Before I come back, no matter what, don't let anyone in. If the vitality is disturbed, there's nothing I can do. Time is of the essence. I'll leave right away. Fortunately, I know where this herb grows. I'm afraid that others won't know the way to pick it and damage the divine herb. I'll leave right away. I'll have to trouble all of you here. Before I come back, don't let anyone in. This is of utmost importance." Old gentleman Chu Yang said solemnly. "Old gentleman, don't worry. We'll definitely take good care of Lord Z. We won't let anyone disturb him." After giving a serious warning, Chu Yang, the old doctor, picked up the medicine hoe and the medicine box, and walked out in a dignified manner. As soon as he went out, he hurriedly walked towards the direction of the mountain gate under the light of the night and the heavy snow. This old gentleman was the #1 physician in the Li clan. He had always been highly respected and had saved countless lives. Everyone in the Li clan knew him. Of course, Chu Yang's journey was very smooth. Patrolling guards saw him constantly. They greeted him respectfully. The old gentleman smiled and nodded. He didn't stop walking. Although this old gentleman was obsessed with medicine, His cultivation was also at the level of a third-stage emperor. Although Chu Yang didn't think it was very good, it didn't stop him from using the speed of a third-stage emperor to hurry on his way. Seeing that he was already out of the clan's buildings, Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief and walked forward. Suddenly, someone shouted in a low voice, "Password." Chu Yang stopped and stroked his beard with a smile. "It's me." A burly man appeared in the snow. "So it's Mr. Great Pharmacist. Where are you going so early?" Chu Yang sighed and said sadly, "That Lord Zi's life is in danger. I have no choice but to go out in the middle of the night to pick herbs for him, but the Patriarch has ordered that no one is allowed to pass this." The burly man hesitated. "The fact that I'm treating Lord Zi's illness is also a first-class order from the clan head." Chu Yang smiled. "This, if you don't let me out." The old man was happy and relaxed, so he went back. "If Lord Zi is unfortunate enough to die, and the clan's important matter comes to a premature end, you'll just have to bear this responsibility. In such cold weather, I don't even want to go out." Chu Yang snorted. He turned around and left. "Slow down. Old mister, please wait." The burly man was stunned. He smiled and said, "I have a duty. I have no choice. Since that's the case, please go and come back quickly. I won't stop you." "Go and come back quickly? On what basis?" Chu Yang rolled his eyes. "Who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? Not only will I not return quickly, but I will also not go." Don't. "Old mister, please forgive me. I'm just a fart. Once you let go, let me go." The burly man smiled and tried to curry favor. Lord Zi even dared to mention the clan head's name in the Li clan. It was needless to say how powerful he was. If something really happened because of him, then his whole family would really be out of luck. Smack. Chu Yang waved his hand and gave this guy a loud slap. He scolded in a low voice, "Bastard. Do you use your mouth to fart? You actually want me to let you go just because I let go? What kind of nonsense is that?" The burly man covered his face. A trace of anger flashed across his eyes, but he didn't dare to flare up. Yes. I said something wrong." Chu Yang snorted angrily. "I'm already angry that I was chased out to pick herbs in such weather. To think that I would meet someone like you along the way." He snorted and raised his head. With his goatee sticking out, he walked proudly through the crowd. After walking for a long time, the burly man returned to his hiding place with a gloomy face. He muttered in his heart, "This old man has always had a good temper. Why is he so unreasonable this time?" He touched his face. It was still burning. He said viciously, "This old fellow is just courting death if he goes out." Chu Yang passed through dozens of checkpoints along the way. When he finally exited the Li clan, he looked back. He actually felt like he was in a dream. He was finally out. This trip wasn't in vain. He had gained a lot. Chu Yang had wanted to come out in the first place. When he heard the news, he couldn't sit still anymore. Why exactly did Lang Yilang, the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, make a move personally? Chu Yang didn't have any concrete information, but he believed that Lang Yilang definitely wouldn't make a move casually. Lang Yilang didn't even make a move personally during the previous encirclement of Hong Wuliang, his greatest enemy. Firstly, he might really have reached a bottleneck in his cultivation. Secondly, there might be other reasons, but he made a move this time. And the timing this time was probably to deal with the extraterrestrial demon. Other than that, there wasn't any other major issue. But who was the extraterrestrial demon? Chu Yang thought that if it was just to deal with him, Lang Yilang probably wouldn't be alarmed. But could Lang Yilang have made a move this time for Wei Wuyan? If Wei Wuyan was discovered, it wasn't impossible for him to be labeled as an accomplice of the extraterrestrial demon. Besides, Wn Renjie, Cheng Duiying and Bao Buhuan were also with Wei Wuyan. These few people had all shown their faces with him in Tianji City. Chu Yang had been keeping an eye on the whereabouts of these 4 people, but there was no news of them at all. This time, they were probably the only ones who were worthy of Lang Yilang making a move personally. Because of him, they had fallen into danger. How could Chu Yang not be anxious? Seeing that he was already out and out of the Li clan's line of sight, with his back completely covered by a vast expanse of snow, Chu Yang immediately used his movement technique. With a whoosh, he disappeared without a trace. He turned the corner at the foot of a mountain. He returned to his original appearance. However, he wasn't wearing a black robe this time. Instead, he was wearing a white robe, as though he was invisible in the heavy snow. As he flew at high speed, his vast and boundless divine cognition spread out in all directions. The most important thing now was to find those people who had come out of the Li clan. The Li clan wanted to find Lang Yilang, and Lang Yilang wanted to find Wei Wuyan. This was a line. When Chu Yang came out, Li Wubo and more than 10 clan elders were discussing Lord Zi's matter. A total of 10 people sat in a circle. They were the backbone of the Li clan and also the decision-makers of the current generation. After returning from visiting Lord Zi tonight, they had gathered together to discuss a few matters. After making arrangements to deal with Lang Yilang and watching the team leave, they could finally sit down and discuss Lord Zi's matter. Elders, tell us about how we should win over Zi Shaoyan. Li Wubo took a breath and said, using beauty to seduce him is obviously out of the question. His 3 maids are all outstanding beauties, but he didn't move at all. There's no need to mention this. Yes. Another elder said, using purple crystals to move him is also out of the question. He already has the ability to control the purple crystal mine. Neither purple crystals nor wealth can move him. It's a pity to kill him. Another person mused. Of course we can't kill him, but this person must be completely under the control of the Li clan. Once he falls into the hands of other clans, it'll be a huge disaster. Another elder's eyes flickered. Once we've finished using him, it's not impossible to kill him. Everyone fell silent. Li Wubo took a deep breath. He said, I do have an idea, but it's a little insidious. Clan leader, please speak. All the elders said in unison, as long as the Li clan can last for thousands of years, so what if it's insidious? Even if the whole world is furious, we still have to do it. The clan comes first. Under this premise, we can disregard everything else. Li Wubo nodded and said, what I mean is, when his injuries are slightly better, we'll poison him. What kind of poison can poison a sword supremacy? All the elders started to rack their brains. Soul-controlling herb. Li Wubo enunciated every word clearly. All the elders were shocked. Soul-controlling herb was unique to the Northwest. Combined with ice snow, one could control any supreme martial artist. If one was disobedient, one could make him suffer a fate worse than death with just a thought. But there was a prerequisite for this kind of poison. One had to use the power of a supreme martial artist and use a human life as the catalyst. In other words, one person had to be sacrificed in order to successfully administer the poison. That's good too. We'll use that doctor's life. That old man treated Zi Shaoyan. He's also the one he won't suspect the most, said an elder. Most of these people had received the doctor's kindness and had received treatment from him. A few of them had even been saved by him. These few people couldn't bear to do it, but after thinking about it, they decided not to say anything. Compared to the clan's great undertaking, how much was a human life worth? Even if this person had saved them before, it didn't matter. Those who deserve to die have to die. That old man isn't young anymore. Could it be that if we don't kill him, he'll be immortal? An elder's eyes flickered. Therefore, I advise all of you to keep your compassion. You'll get yourself killed. Everyone stopped talking. What he said was true. Although he had saved them before, he was old after all. These few years, he was also not as strong as he wished. Would he be immortal if they didn't kill him? Thinking about it this way, everyone actually felt more at ease. Seeing that no one objected, Li Wubo nodded satisfactorily. All right, since that's the case, we'll do it this way. 7th Elder, you'll be in charge of this. You must be absolutely foolproof. The hawk-nosed 7th Elder stood up to receive the order. This 7th Elder was the coldest and most ruthless among all the elders. Li Wubo had found the right person to assign this task to. Once he's under control, We'll have to guard against his retaliation at all times and train him to make him completely obedient. However, we can't let our guard down either. Li Wubu's eyes were cold and vicious. At an appropriate time, we'll drug him with an aphrodisiac and let him copulate with women to give birth to offspring. The more, the better. We'll let him nurture his offspring. After we've confirmed that his offspring are useful, we'll kill Zi Xiaoyan. When I saw the Shengda mobile phone on the web, I was immediately interested. Looking at its functions, it's easy to understand and is very suitable for a mobile phone noob like me. Of course, the most important thing is that it's not expensive. Hee hee. When I get my hands on the mobile phone in a few days, I'll try it out. If it's useful, I'll recommend it to everyone, haha. Of course, we have to share good things. Chapter 1262. Clan Master is wise. The elder's eyes shone brightly. If that's the case, wouldn't the purple crystal bloodline belong to the Li clan? Then, Li Wubu said coldly, in this way, the purple crystal bloodline can be gradually turned into a branch of the Li clan. By then, the Li clan will be able to stay strong forever. Moreover, no matter when, we will be able to discover the purple crystal mine immediately and easily obtain it. Once we survive this 10,000-year crisis and become powerful enough to kill all the other tribulations, dominating the heavens, wouldn't that be creating the true glory of the Li clan? Everyone thought about it carefully. This matter was really not impossible. Think about it, when the Tribulation Sword Master unified the heavens, there would be many things waiting to be done. Basically, all the top forces would be depleted. However, the Li clan would definitely still retain a large amount of resources and experts. By then, what would be strange if they killed those people while they were unprepared? They could totally do it. This matter is indeed a little sinister. However, for the sake of the clan, this is the only way. Li Wubu said heavily, I hope the elders can understand and implement it. The elders stood up at once. What are you saying, Clan Master? We've always only listened to the clan's decisions. There's no reason for us to object. In a vast expanse of snow, Wei Wuyan walked forward silently. Behind him, 3 people sighed and followed. They were Wan Renjie, Cheng Juiying, and Bao Buhuan. The 4 of them were all injured. The one with the most serious injuries was Wei Wuyan. Ever since they left Tianji City, the 4 of them had been traveling together. The 4 of them were all experts and didn't encounter any trouble. Instead, they passed quite peacefully for a few days. Especially one day, Wei Wuyan seemed to have discovered something unintentionally. He walked all the way north. He discovered traces of Hong Wuliang. Towards Hong Wuliang, his teacher and enemy, Wei Wuyan really hated him to the core. Once he discovered Hong Wuliang, he immediately disregarded everything and followed him all the way here. Wan Renjie and the other 2 were afraid that something would happen to Wei Wuyan, so they naturally accompanied him. Who knew that after walking for a period of time, the whole world would suddenly be abuzz with news about the extraterrestrial demon? For a moment, everyone was anxious and filled with righteous indignation. Everyone rubbed their palms together. Everyone was scolding Chu Yang for being deranged and despicable. The 4 of them became more and more confused. After asking around for a long time, they finally understood the reason. So it was Chu Yang who had killed everyone from the Medicine Valley. After figuring out the truth, the 4 of them flew into a rage. They cursed loudly in a restaurant and started fighting. How can Chu Yang be an extraterrestrial demon? If Chu Yang is an extraterrestrial demon, then all of you are extraterrestrial demons. Your whole family are extraterrestrial demons. Bao Buhuan's character was irritable. He couldn't help but shout, beating up the people in the restaurant who were talking about this matter on the spot. The 4 of them were already in a bad mood. When he discovered Hong Wuliang, he felt even more depressed. Now, someone actually slandered his brother in front of him. This was simply intolerable. This ruckus was not a big deal, but they were immediately attacked by a group of people. However, most of the people who came over were not experts, so the 4 of them attacked to the east and attacked to the west, and then attacked to the north. In a short time, A large number of people were defeated. Immediately, the four of them fell into the awkward situation of being besieged. It had only been 4 hours. Someone recognized them. These bastards, no wonder they defended the extraterrestrial demon Chu Yang. They are his accomplices. I've seen them before. When they were in Tianji City, they were with Chu Yang. They are the extraterrestrial demons. The incident started from there. Wei Wuyan and the three of them instantly became the target of public criticism. At first, the four of them thought that it was just a riot, but as time passed, the situation became more and more serious. However, he found that the situation was getting more and more serious, and more experts were rushing over. The four of them gradually felt the strain. When the big clans and law enforcers interfered, the four of them were completely reduced to running for their lives. Go to the southeast and ask Chu Yang what we should do about this matter. WN Renjie made the final decision. Bring him the news while we're at it. What's wrong with this? The four of them started to advance towards the southeast, but they didn't expect that this journey was so difficult that it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Not only could they not enter the southeast, but they were also chased by the enemies all the way. They almost didn't even have time to take a breather. The four of them tried to escape in all directions. After they failed in all aspects, they finally found an opening to break out of the encirclement. However, they realized that this direction was the northwest. But now, they were basically enemies of the whole world. The four of them had no choice but to fight and break out of the encirclement. Along the way, just like that, they actually broke out of the encirclement and reached the northwest. And this was all thanks to the fact that all four of them were veterans of the martial world. All of them were so experienced that they were practically immortals. If it had been anyone else, even their bones would probably have turned into ashes. When they reached here, although there were fewer and fewer people chasing after them, every one of them was still an expert. The four of them were a little miserable. The arrival of law enforcement officers made things worse for them. When the law enforcement interrogation hall came, the four of them basically didn't have any power to fight back anymore. If it wasn't for the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, Lang Yilang's strict order to capture them alive, the four of them would probably already be dead by now. It was also because of this order of Lang Yilang's that the four of them were able to escape and break out of the encirclement continuously. As a result, they were now running around in circles in this vast snowfield. After a great battle, the four of them broke out of the encirclement with great difficulty and sprinted through the mountains. It's not a good idea to go on like this. WN Renjie was the most astute. We don't have a target either. How can this work? But we can't stop now. Cheng Duiying had a bitter look on his face. There are pursuers all around us. It's already a blessing to be able to rest for 2 hours. How can we have time to think of other things? Bao Bu Huan nodded repeatedly. Eldest senior brother and second senior brother are right. Wei Wuyan was silent. Suddenly, he said, it's still the same idea as what I said. Absolutely not. Before Wei Wuyan finished, WN Renjie and the other two shook their heads together. It's no big deal for the four of us to die together. If we leave you behind and escape by ourselves. Wei Wuyan, if you still treat us as humans, don't talk about that anymore. Wei Wuyan smiled bitterly. There was a hint of emotion in his lifeless eyes. I know, all of you are loyal. But from the looks of it, Lang Yilang is only targeting me. It's just that I've implicated all of you by following me. I'm willing to be implicated by you. Cheng Duiying straightened his neck and said, others don't have the right to implicate you. Brother Wei. Second senior brother is right. Bao Bu Huan said fervently. WN Renjie said, yes, Brother Wei, we're in a life and death situation now. You don't have to persuade us anymore. Brother Wei, eldest senior brother is right. Bao Bu Huan strongly agreed. Wei Wuyan took a deep breath and said, if you're alive, you can still inform Chu Yang, our little brother. If we're all dead, who's going to help him? WAN Renjie laughed. Brother Wei. With the Moonbreeze couple by his side, how can anything happen to him? Cheng Duiying smiled and said, moreover, Bu Liuqing is also there, and there's also Lord Zi, who has unparalleled martial art. Let's go. We'll only be a burden to him. Bao Buhuan nodded fiercely. Brother Wei, eldest senior brother and second senior brother are right. Wei Wuyen was helpless. Behind them, there were shadows. The pursuers were coming again. The four sighed. They sped up and disappeared into the depths of the snowfield, leaving a trail of snow dust behind them. Another 3 days later. Wei Wuyen and the other 3 were already exhausted. But they finally got rid of the pursuers temporarily. They leaned against each other in a valley and gasped for breath. I really don't know how Brother Wei provoked the law enforcement officers. Why are they so crazy? Only now did Cheng Duiying have time to treat his wounds that had almost frozen. But no matter how he provoked the law enforcement officers came up with the title of extraterrestrial demon to frame him. It's just wrong. WN Renjie said angrily, if that's the case, the law enforcement officers will give the title of extraterrestrial demon to whoever they don't like in the future. And they can do whatever they want. They're simply bastards. Wei Wuyen sighed. The law enforcement officers are like this. You're all experienced in the martial world. Why can't you see through this? The 3 of them sighed at the same time. They knew that the world was unfair, but what could they do? They only said a few words of justice for their brothers. But they were labeled as accomplices and hunted by the whole world. If the 3 of them died, who could they tell this injustice to? There were only people in the world who could swallow their anger. How many more would there be? Law enforcement officers. Ho! Bao Buhuan sneered and said in a low voice, law enforcement officers are just SOSO. The 3 of them nodded at the same time. Right at this moment, an indifferent voice said, you're right. Law enforcement officers are just SOSO. But you've forgotten one thing. Law enforcement officers have power. When you have the ability to make power, you can also play with it. This voice came out of nowhere. It actually seemed to come from above their heads. The 4 of them turned pale with fright. They jumped up at the same time, rushed out of this hidden spot and looked up. Above the valley, 10 men in black stood there like deep abysses. 10 pairs of cold eyes looked at the 4 of them in unison. At this moment, the 4 of them felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. A wave of despair welled up in their hearts. The person in front was dressed in black, but a bright red headband was tied around his forehead. His face was thin, his expression lonely, his eyes cold and sharp, and his figure thin and long. No one beside him had a cape. He was the only one whose black cloak fluttered in the wind. Even though they had never seen him before, the 4 of them recognized him at once. This attire belonged to the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, Lang Yilang. As for the other 10 people, all of them were supreme beings. Just by standing there, they exuded the aura of an expert. Lang Yilang? Wei Wuyen looked up and asked slowly, how dare you? How dare you call the master by his name? A man in black at the side shouted fiercely. Lang Yilang waved his hand and looked at Wei Wuyen with some interest. You're Hong Wuliang's disciple, Wei Wuyen? 3rd update. I'll continue to write the 4th update. Gee, I heard that because I was late yesterday, a little beautiful sub-moderator of the mobile book review section even cried out of grievance. Cough cough. Little girl, don't cry. I'll give you candy. No matter where you are, maintain the harmony in our book review section and create our own paradise. Ha. Let's work hard together. Chapter 1263. I am Wei Wuyen. Bone-deep hatred shot out from Wei Wuyen's eyes. I used to be Hong Wuliang's disciple, but not anymore. He raised his head. I'm not begging for mercy from you. It's because Hong Wuliang is despicable, shameless, dirty, and despicable. I have an irreconcilable feud with him. Lang Yilang sneered. It's been 1,000 years, and you only just realized how despicable he is. With a wave of his hand, 10 people floated down from above in an orderly manner. Wei Wuyen and the others didn't move, nor did they escape. The 4 of them were only first-grade supreme martial artists. And they were already exhausted. Right now, even standing up was very difficult for them, let alone fighting. and the other party was an expert above first-grade supreme martial artists. A few of them were even second-grade and third-grade supreme martial artists. As for the leader, Lang Yilang, he was even more unfathomable. Meeting under such circumstances, there was really no hope of escaping at all. Lang Yilang glided over from the snowy ground like flowing water. Standing in front of Wei Wuyan, he sized him up and nodded. With deep fatigue and loneliness in his eyes, he said in a weary voice, "Wei Wuyan, I believe, you know me." Wei Wuyan replied coldly, "Master Lang is a mighty figure. How can I not know you?" Lang Yilang laughed. Although he was laughing, the expression on his face was still so sorrowful and bleak. He said bleakly, "I'm talking about what happened between me and Hong Wuliang." Wei Wuyan fell silent. Of course he knew about this. Hong Wuliang had mentioned it more than once. But ever since Hong Wuliang's actions caused his image in Wei Wuyan's heart to collapse, Wei Wuyan really couldn't tell who was right and who was wrong between the two of them now. Lang Yilang heaved a long sigh. He said dispassionately, "Ever since I discovered you, I've been making arrangements along the way, forcing you to change your route time and time again, leading you to this northwestern wasteland. Doesn't this place feel very familiar?" Wei Wuyan was silent for a moment. Then, he replied, "Yes, it does feel very familiar." Lang Yilang nodded slightly. "Yes. You grew up here. Of course it feels familiar." Wei Wuyan fell silent. There was an inexplicable melancholy on his face. Yes, this was where he grew up. This was his home, his roots. Just here. It was only in order to avoid a strong enemy that he followed Hong Wuliang and fled for tens of thousands of miles. He left this place. Wn Renjie and the other two were suddenly enlightened. Why was Wei Wuyan able to shake off the pursuers time and time again in such a harsh environment in the northwest region? So that was how it was. The northwest was Wei Wuyan's hometown. However, it wasn't just Wei Wuyan who had a melancholy look on his face. Even Lang Yilang, who was standing in front of him, actually had the same melancholy look on his face. "It's not just you. My hometown is here as well," Lang Yilang said in a low and deep voice. "Hong Wuliang's hometown is also here. The person I love deeply, her hometown. He's here too. They're all here." Lang Yilang's voice became very hollow and ethereal, as though he was speaking to his soul. He murmured, "That's why I didn't hesitate to set up an inescapable net, mobilizing all the forces of the entire law enforcement hall and mobilizing the big clans to pursue and intercept you, just to force you here. Because I want to settle the grudges of my life in my hometown." "I see," Wei Wuyan said calmly. "So you gave the order that you can't harm our lives and must capture us alive?" Lang Yilang gave him a weary smile. He shook his head. "With your insignificant strength, do you really think that you can fight your way here?" Wei Wuyan sneered. "Even if we can't, you're toying with us too much by doing this." Lang Yilang frowned. "About that, I'm very sorry." He paused for a moment. "But this has been my wish for close to 2,000 years. So, even if it's difficult, I still want to do it. Even if I have to let down everyone in the world, I still want to do it." Wei Wuyan stopped talking. He understood what Lang Yilang meant. Even if I have to let down everyone in the world, I still want to do it. Moreover, it's just the four of you. Lang Yilang carried a kind of weariness from his soul to his body from head to toe. This kind of weariness was like that of a traveler who had exhausted all his strength after not eating or drinking for several days in the desert. The moment one saw him, one would immediately empathize with him. As though he himself was also tired. He was tired of this life. It was no longer interesting. Whether Chu Yang is an extraterrestrial demon or not, I don't care. Lang Yilang kept his hands behind his back and kept them in his sleeves. He said, "I don't want to kill the four of you either. But you, Wei Wuyan, are the only witness to what happened back then." After he finished speaking, he turned his head and said, "Please find a place to rest." Then, his eyes flashed and he said, "Treat them with respect. Don't be rude." A supreme martial artist had already stepped forward. With a loud bang, he punched a huge hole in the mountain wall. Then, A few people led WN Rengier and the other two inside and sat down to rest. As expected, they didn't make things difficult for them. Outside the cave, where heavy snow was falling, there were only Lang Ilang and Wei Wuyen. You have to cooperate a little. Because if you don't, those 3 loyal brothers of yours will die because of you. Lang Ilang said very calmly. You. Wei Wuyen shouted furiously. I'm only going to say it once. Lang Ilang's voice was bleak. Wei Wuyen lowered his head dejectedly. How do you want me to cooperate? Lang Ilang had grasped Wei Wuyen's greatest weakness. If it was just Wei Wuyen alone, he would have long lost all hope in life and might even be fighting for his life right now. However, with the lives of WN Rengier and the other two in Lang Ilang's hands, Wei Wuyen didn't dare to act rashly. In fact, he didn't even dare to cough. WN Rengier and the other two cherished him and accompanied him through life and death. Similarly, Wei Wuyen could do the same and do anything for them, including doing anything. Follow me. With his hands behind his back, Lang Ilang strolled in the wind and snow, walking up the cliff step by step. Wei Wuyen followed suit, advancing in Lang Ilang's footsteps. Suddenly, Wei Wuyen had a strange feeling. Advancing in Lang Ilang's footsteps. If that was the case, his own fate. Compared to Lang Ilang, how much worse was he? Wouldn't their fates be the same? It was all because of Hong Wuliang that his family was ruined and he would be alone for the rest of his life. At the thought of this, Wei Wuyen heaved a long sigh. 1,700 years ago, there was a plum blossom on this cliff. Every time there was heavy snow, the plum blossom would bloom as well. The snow-white plum blossom seemed to have merged into one with the snow-white snow. No one knew when the plum blossom bloomed. No one knew when the plum blossom wilted either. It came and went without a trace. Lang Ilang said in a weary voice, "Now, even that plum blossom tree is gone." Standing on a high spot, he looked around. Then, he slowly sat down and patted the snow beside him. "Sit down, Wei Wuyen. Be patient and listen to me tell you a story." Without a word, Wei Wuyen sat down in front of him. "I have kept this story in my heart. For more than 1,000 years. I have never told anyone about it. Today, when the feud is settled, I want this story to be made known to the world. At the very least, there must be someone related to this story. As a witness." Lang Ilang smiled lightly. Wei Wuyen took a deep breath. Ever since Lang Ilang appeared, he could hear a sense of loneliness and sorrow in Lang Ilang's voice. As well as a kind of bitterness that seeped into his bones. It was as if this person's heart hid countless bitterness, blood, and tears. However, he found it rather strange. Lang Ilang kept saying that the feud would be settled today, but Hong Wuliang was still hiding somewhere. How was he going to completely settle the feud today? "Do you think you can settle all the feud by telling me just one story?" With a wry smile, Lang Ilang said, 1,700 years ago. 50 kilometers to the east of this hillside, there was a small village. That village was called the Hong Clan village. My family was the only one with a different surname in the Hong Clan village. One day, the Hong Clan village suddenly changed. The Hong family village suddenly experienced a great change, and all the villagers were killed. Only 2 youths managed to escape. From then on, they depended on each other. After going through untold hardships, they broke out of the northwest and vowed to take revenge. The 2 of them swore an oath to the heavens and became brothers. They would stay by each other's side for the rest of their lives. They would never betray each other. Finally, the 2 brothers had their own encounters and finally parted ways. The next time they met, it was already 30 years later. Both of them had to become disciples of famous masters and master their martial arts. Wei Wuyen knew that Lang Ilang was talking about himself and Hong Wuliang. However, this story was obviously very different from Hong Wuliang's. When the 2 of them met, they were naturally overjoyed. From then on, they roamed the martial world together. In the beginning, whatever income the 2 of them had, they would put it together and share it equally. However, at that time, Hong Wuliang's cultivation was slightly higher, so he earned more while I earned less. Hong Wuliang gradually felt a little uncomfortable. After I took the initiative to bring it up, Hong Wuliang took the lion's share. Finally, one day, the two of us met a group of bandits who were robbing a carriage. Hong Wuliang didn't intend to interfere, but at that time, I was reminded of the hatred of having my clan wiped out. Thus, I rushed forward. Everyone in the carriage was dead, except for a young girl. Because she was beautiful, the bandits didn't kill her. Instead, they wanted to take her back to the mountain. I saved that young girl, and killed those bandits. However, how were the two of us going to travel with a weak girl in tow? But if we left her to fend for herself, how was she going to live on with her parents and family members dead? However, Hong Wuliang, who had always been unenthusiastic about this matter, became enthusiastic after seeing this girl's face. He suggested that the two of us teach this girl martial arts so that she could increase her strength within a short period of time. As long as she had a foundation in martial arts, she would no longer be a burden. Both the girl and I agreed with this decision very much. Time passed just like that. Although Hong Wuliang had been deliberately putting on a strong front, that girl's dependence on me grew stronger and stronger. As for me, half a year later, the girl and I finally decided to marry each other in private and exchanged tokens. The two of us agreed that after we had taken our revenge, we would hide in the mountains and live in seclusion, never to come out again. We would stay together in peace and lead a peaceful and stable life. At that time, both of us felt happy and satisfied. It was as if this world had also become lovable. When Lang Yilang reached this point, it was supposed to be a story of a talented man and a beautiful woman. However, his voice suddenly became sinister and resentful. A sinister aura made Wei Wuyan's hair stand on end. Chapter 1264. Since we've decided to spend our lives together, we had to come back to pay our respects to our ancestors no matter what. Lang Yilang's voice became more and more tired and sinister. I told Hong Wuliang about this and he expressed his heartfelt blessings to us. Then, he gave each of us a piece of purple crystal as a congratulatory gift. At that time, our cultivation wasn't high. It's usually very difficult to get purple crystals. Xia and I were very grateful to him. We thought that Hong Wuliang was really a very gentlemanly and magnanimous person. At this point, Lang Yilang let out 2 cold laughs. But he finally said that name inadvertently, Xia. So the 3 of us went back together. I brought Xia with me to pay respects to my parents. Then, while Hong Wuliang was eagerly cooking, I brought Xia with me and the 2 of us came here. Under that plum blossom tree, the 2 of us talked for a very long time. I will remember that day forever. That day, while the plum blossoms were blooming, many were also withering. Snowflakes were falling and the 2 of us snuggled under the plum blossom tree until our bodies were buried by the snowflakes and plum blossoms. Until now, every time I come here, I seem to still be able to smell that faint plum blossom fragrance from that day. Lang Yilang looked into the distance in a daze, watching the snowflakes swirling in the vast sky. When he spoke, he already sounded as if he was dreaming. His gaze was gentle and affectionate as he looked to the left in front of him. It was as if that plum blossom tree was still there. It still gave off the fragrance of plum blossoms. And that beloved girl was still in his arms. His eyes became hazy and his lips trembled slightly, almost imperceptibly. He inhaled deeply and then exhaled deeply. After doing this 3 times, he finally spoke. That night, Hong Wuliang very enthusiastically held a banquet to celebrate for us. That day, I was very happy. I drank a lot. When he said the last 4 words drank a lot, Lang Yilang suddenly enunciated each word clearly, his face contorting. Wei Wuyan's initially calm and indifferent expression also gradually became nervous. He knew that the story had reached an important turning point. He knew how tolerant, despicable and shameless Hong Wuliang was towards that master of his. Wei Wuyan knew it very well. Furthermore, Hong Wuliang's disguise had reached a stage where he could even deceive himself. It was really superb. It was evident from Lang Yilang's words. Both Hong Wuliang and Lang Yilang liked this girl. And now, this woman was already engaged to Lang Yilang and had even returned to pay respects to her ancestors. At this point, if Hong Wuliang still didn't take any action, he wouldn't be Hong Wuliang. The next morning, when I woke up, I went to look for Xia excitedly. However, I received a blow to the head. I actually saw Hong Wuliang walking out of Xia's room. Come out. Lang Yilong laughed coldly. It was the kind of laughter that came from someone who was so tragic that he couldn't cry but could only laugh. Then, Xia told me, she suddenly realized something. The one she likes isn't me, but Hong Wuliang. She begs for my forgiveness, begs for my blessings. Lang Yilong gritted his teeth, a strange smile on his face. At that time, I was smiling like this. My heart was full of happiness and joy. It made me smile, but before I was done being happy, I had to smile for someone else, the person I loved the most. Yesterday, they were still vowing their love to each other, but in just one night, she had become someone else's woman, and they wanted me to fulfill their wishes. To fulfill their wishes. At that time, Xia held a glass of wine and said that as long as I drank this glass of wine, it would prove that I gave her my blessings. That she would be happy. At that time, I was a goddamn fool. At that time, I was a goddamn fool. The most foolish fool in the world, the most damned fool in the world. That was me, Lang Yilong. I actually just let out a tragic laugh, took the glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. After saying a few words of blessings incoherently, I broke down and left. I found a place to cry, vent, scold and go crazy. I knew that I had been hurt. I swore that I would never forgive either of them. But at that time, I didn't think at all that. Xia was in a much worse state than I was. I didn't turn back at all. I also didn't know what kind of expression Xia had on her face behind me. Now that I think about it, what kind of expression must she have had back then? Wei Wuyan, tell me, what kind of expression must she have had when she saw me leaving resolutely? Lang Yilong looked at Wei Wuyan, his tired eyes full of ferocious questions. Wei Wuyan's heart felt stifled. He suddenly felt so stifled that he couldn't speak. What kind of expression must she have had? Wei Wuyan absolutely believed that the expression on that pitiful woman's face when she saw Lang Yilong leaving without a care for her was definitely enough to make any cold-hearted person feel so much pain that he would rather die. After more than a year, Hong Wuliang and Xia got married. I didn't want to go at first. I hated them, but I really couldn't let go. I actually went to congratulate them. I really deserved to die. Actually, I just wanted to see her. At that time, I really hated her, but I really missed her too much. I really missed her too much. Do you understand? That night, Hong Wuliang finally got drunk. And I finally had a chance to talk to Xia. I also drank too much. I grabbed her and asked, why? Why? Why did you treat me like this? I felt so wronged. I wanted to kill someone. But Xia only looked at me in despair. She was wearing a bright red wedding dress, and there was only dead silence and despair in her eyes. Then, she asked me, do you really not know what happened that night? That damned Hong Wuliang. That night, he poisoned my food and raped Xia. He even threatened her that if she didn't marry him, he wouldn't give me the antidote. Poor Xia, she agreed to marry him just like that. And the cup of wine I drank was the antidote. I finally found out the truth, but it was at her wedding. Hong Wuliang invited many experts. But at that time, I couldn't care less. I wanted to take Xia away. I wanted to kill Hong Wuliang, but I was outnumbered and was actually captured by them. Hong Wuliang wanted to kill me. Xia knelt down and begged him. As long as he let me go, she would serve Hong Wuliang for the rest of her life. If he didn't let me go, she would die here. He. Lang Yilong laughed bitterly. He laughed twice before he suddenly started sobbing softly. It finally turned into loud sobs. More than 1,000 years of suppression were finally released today. Lang Yilong seemed to have opened the floodgates and could no longer close the floodgates of his emotions. Wei Wuyan looked at this senior in front of him. A supreme martial artist, the head of the law enforcement interrogation hall, was crying like a child in front of him. His heart couldn't help but ache. He also thought of his wife and son. His nose couldn't help but turn sour. Tears trickled down his face. Xia sacrificed her life for me to finally let me go like a dog. When I was thrown out, I was like a dog. A dog that had nothing. A dog that relied on the sacrifice of his beloved in exchange for a chance to live and breathe. At this point, Lang Ilang laughed bitterly. He breathed with his mouth open. Again and again, heavy and heavy, like the low roar of a wild bull. Wei Wuyan sighed sadly. In comparison, between himself and Lang Ilang, he really didn't know who was more pitiful. Since then, I've looked for every opportunity. I made Hong Wuliang my enemy and tried to kill him countless times. But at that time, because of what I thought was Xia betrayal, I was dispirited for a very long time. On the other hand, Hong Wuliang kept on improving. I was originally inferior to him. The dispirited period during that time widened the gap between us even more. I was never his match. Time after time, every time, I barely managed to keep myself alive and escaped like a dog. Hong Wuliang was good at disguising himself. Moreover, he pretended to be a big shot in the martial world, squandering money like water and having a lot of friends. And the money he squandered was mostly what Xia and I earned back then. This despicable man. I lived my life in a daze. Other than revenge, I didn't think about anything else. I only cultivated and took revenge. After I was injured, I cultivated like crazy and went to take revenge. But after a few years, when I had the confidence to seek revenge from him again, I was surprised to find out that Xia was dead. She died the day before I went. Dead. Lang Ilang's eyes were bloodshot as he roared. The snowy ground within a radius of several thousand feet was shaken and shattered into pieces in the air. And the day I went actually happened to be Xia's funeral. I disregarded everything and barged my way in. That day, we fought. At that time, Hong Wuliang was no longer my match. But he had a lot of friends and everyone fought together. I was forced to go far away. That night, I snuck back and dug up Xia's grave. I carried her out. My lifelong ambition was to take Xia away from Hong Wuliang and save her. I finally did it, but what I brought back was Xia's corpse. But I knew that even in death, Xia would never allow herself to stay in the grave of that Hong Wuliang's wife. So, I didn't allow it either. Xia's corpse was covered in wounds. She didn't die of illness. No. She was beaten to death by Hong Wuliang. This heartless and unscrupulous thing. Panting heavily, Lang Ilang's eyes were bloodshot. From then on, Hong Wuliang invited many experts to make things difficult for me, saying that I had humiliated him. I concealed my identity and fled to a faraway place with Xia's corpse. I used all means to join the law enforcement officers and climbed up the ranks of the law enforcement officers by hook or by crook. Hong Wuliang knew that I was plotting against him. During that period of time, he also cultivated like crazy, using all means to rope in experts. Finally, when I became the deputy head of the law enforcement officers' interrogation hall, I discovered a secret place and obtained a secret legacy. During the battle with Hong Wuliang that time, I gave him a hard hit with the purple crystal hand. I could have killed him that time, but I didn't and let him escape. I wanted him to use the purple crystal hand to torture him for the rest of his life. There's no such thing as letting him die so easily. With deep resentment, Lang Ilang laughed savagely and repeated, "There's no such thing as letting him die so easily. If I let him die just like that, all the torture that Xia and I have suffered all these years would have been too much of a waste." Xia wouldn't allow it either. Cough, I've been dealt a blow. I regrouped, adjusted my emotions, and moved forward steadily. Today's update will be late. It was raining heavily. Taking advantage of the fact that others were sheltering from the rain and couldn't see, Lai Wu went to the riverside with an umbrella and howled for half an hour. He pointed at the sky and scolded the earth, then scolded Old Cat. In the end, he returned to write his story in high spirits. There might be snow tomorrow. To be continued. Chapter 1265. You'll also know what happened in the future. It was only after a very long time that Lang Ilang finally said this. I didn't expect Hong Wuliang's luck to be so good. When it was already very difficult for him to earn purple crystals, he actually took in a good disciple. And this disciple actually served him for 1,000 years. Lang Yilang's thin chest heaved up and down. After a long, long while, he finally reached out his sleeve to wipe away his tears without leaving a trace. He said, "The story is over. Here, there is a most pitiful person, a most despicable person, a most foolish person. Just 3 people were enough to form this tragedy that had lasted for more than 1,000 years. Wei Wuyan, do you have anything you want to say?" He actually laughed softly, as if he was lost in thought. Wei Wuyan lowered his head sadly. He murmured weakly, "You keep saying that you're a fool, but how would you know that the most foolish person is me? You're stronger than me. At least you've always hated him. Besides, it's just his lover, not his wife, and he doesn't have any descendants." Lang Yilang frowned. "Oh, I've been deceived by him for a lifetime. Ha ha." Wei Wuyan laughed miserably. "My family died tragically. Both my parents died. My wife was killed by him, and my biological son was strangled to death by him when he was still an infant. After all these things, I even served him for almost 1,000 years. Who's the fool? Ha ha ha. You're the fool? Why are you being foolish? Are you even more foolish than me?" Lang Yilang was silent for a very long time. Finally, he said, "So you're that miserable too?" Wei Wuyan laughed and cried at the same time. "Don't you feel that it feels great to be in the same boat?" Lang Yilang also laughed at once. As he laughed, as tears streamed down his face, he said miserably, "It does feel great." After a very long time, Lang Yilang took a deep breath and said, "Speaking of which, your fate and misery is still because of me." Wei Wuyan was silent for a long time. Then, he shook his head dispassionately. "Perhaps, but I can't blame you." Lang Yilang heaved a long sigh. "Hatred makes me crazy," Lang Yilang said in a low voice. "Whoever's hatred is crazy." Wei Wuyan laughed bitterly. "But today, we can stop being crazy." Lang Yilang reached out and grabbed a handful of snow. He crumpled it into a ball and rubbed it on his face forcefully. He said dispassionately, "We have to settle all our grudges today." Therefore, she cried for a while first. After crying, it was time to end it. "Wei Wuyan, if you have a deep hatred, I can let you do half of it." Wei Wuyan was stunned. "You?" Lang Yilang laughed savagely. "Don't tell me that my promise to end all grudges was for nothing." As he spoke, he let out a wild laugh. His laughter was filled with delight, and he leaped into the air amidst the laughter. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Then, he slowly walked over from afar in the boundless wind and snow. He was dragging a rope in his hand. It seemed that he was dragging something along the way. As he neared, he exerted force on his wrist and bellowed, "Catch!" A black shadow rushed towards Wei Wuyan. Wei Wuyan stretched out his hand to receive it, and his whole body couldn't help but tremble. What Lang Yilang had dragged over was actually a person. Hong Wuliang. At this moment, Hong Wuliang's eyes were lifeless, and his face was pale. His body was also curled up and trembling. He no longer had the demeanor of an expert from before. "Last time, after I forced him to come out, he had been under my surveillance the whole time. I tortured him along the way. I didn't give him a single purple crystal. I watched him beg, watch him get bullied, watch him get spat on. Every day, I was as happy as if it was the new year." Lang Yilang gritted his teeth. "But how can I not have a witness for what happened back then?" Lang Yilang chuckled tragically. "Therefore, the moment I knew about you, I did everything I could to force you to come here. Don't blame me for being vicious. Because I want to end this feud here, in this place of origin, under the witness of a person who is related to both parties. Under the witness of the deities of heaven and earth. If you had said so earlier, I would have come even if you didn't force me," Wei Wuyan said dispassionately. "But I was afraid that you wouldn't come." Lang Yilang snorted. "I believe that the elders of both parties are here to watch. Xia Er's spirit in heaven is also watching silently. She's watching this scum get his retribution. She's watching this scum get his punishment today." Lang Yilang howled into the sky. Did you see that? Did you see that? Wei Wuyan started to tremble all over. He stared fixedly at Hong Wuliang, gritting his teeth so hard that they made cracking sound. Lang Yilong slapped Hong Wuliang a few times. White smoke came out of Hong Wuliang's mouth at once and his eyes became lively. The next moment, he saw Wei Wuyan and couldn't help but shudder all over. He avoided looking at Wei Wuyan, but when he turned around, he saw Lang Yilong again. His originally somewhat guilty gaze suddenly turned ferocious. Lang Yilong took a deep breath, but his voice became strangely gentle. Hong Wuliang, how have you been these few days? Hong Wuliang panted a few times before he suddenly shouted, Lang Yilong, kill me if you have the guts. Kill you? Of course I'll kill you. Lang Yilong's eyes were cold. But before you die, there's something I need to clarify. Hong Wuliang sneered. Go ahead. Back then, Xia was already your wife and had been with you for more than 10 years. Why did you suddenly want to beat her to death? Lang Yilong's eyes slowly turned red. He. I can beat my wife to death if I want to. What does it have to do with you? Hong Wuliang smiled viciously. Why? Does your heart ache? Lang Yilong's limbs were trembling slightly. I want to know the reason. You want to know the reason? Hong Wuliang was trembling, but there was a vicious sneer in his eyes as he looked at Lang Yilong. Who do you think you are? Why should I tell you? Lang Yilong took a deep breath. Are you going to tell me or not? Hong Wuliang burst into laughter. I'm about to die anyway. Why should I tell you? Why should I fulfill your wish before I die? Even after I die, I want you to regret it forever. He smiled cruelly. That bitch. I just wanted to beat her to death. I just wanted to torture her to death. I just wanted to torture her to death in all kinds of strange ways. Do you know, from the day she married me, I started to torture her. I tortured her for more than 10 years without stopping every single day. I just want to torture her to death. What can you do? Your heart aches. Your heart aches because you're also an adulterer. Even after she dies, she's still my wife. Why? Do you want to take revenge? Lang Yilong's clothes and hair fluttered even though there was no wind. He gritted his teeth and said, You will tell me. Hong Wuliang spat at him. Don't even think about it. I, Hong Wuliang, have been despicable and shameless all my life, but my bones are still tough. Lang Yilong, you don't believe me? Then come and try. See if I'll tell you or not. Lang Yilong smiled coldly. With a wave of his hand, the snow on the ground was cleared away, revealing the ground. He slammed his palms together and the ground became as solid as steel. Then, he dragged Hong Wuliang down and placed him on the stone slab. He said menacingly, Are you going to tell me or not? Hong Wuliang sneered and scolded, Adulterous couple. Lang Yilong nodded. All right. He took out a small jade bottle and poured out a fragrant pill from the jade bottle. The next moment, he pinched Hong Wuliang's chin. Hong Wuliang involuntarily opened his mouth, and the pill instantly entered his mouth. Poison? Do you think I'll? Hong Wuliang sneered. He was only halfway through his sentence when he suddenly exclaimed in horror, 100 spirits pill? Lang Yilong. You're so vicious. Lang Yilong shook the small jade bottle in his hand and smiled cruelly. There are still 10 pills in here. I used 3 million purple crystals in exchange for 1100 spirits pills. I'm going to use all of them on you. Beside him, Wei Wuyan suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. The 100 spirits pill wasn't poison but a rare elixir in the world. It was one of the most supreme and miraculous elixirs among the law enforcement officers. Taking the 100 spirits pill could increase one's cultivation and raise one's mental strength by 1 level within a short period of time. It could endlessly stimulate the sensitivity of one's entire body, making one's nerves 100 times more sensitive than usual. This kind of elixir, especially when one was breaking through bottlenecks and comprehending one's realm, was really effective. It was hailed as the abstinence-breaking elixir, and now, Lang Yilong was actually using this 100 spirits pill to deal with Hong Wuliang. Wei Wuyan naturally wouldn't be so naive as to think that Lang Yilong was helping Hong Wuliang to raise his level. He was only using this 100 spirits pill to keep Hong Wuliang's mental strength in an abnormally high state so that he wouldn't pass out. He was also allowing his tactile nerves to reach the most sensitive level so that he could endure the greatest amount of pain. As he spoke, Lang Yilang thoughtfully helped Hong Wuliang circulate his energy to dissolve the effects of the 100 spirits pill. Hong Wuliang's ghastly pale face reddened at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, he became full of vigor and energy. However, Hong Wuliang's eyes became even more horrified and fearful. "I'm not especially torturing you." Lang Yilang smiled cruelly. "Bear with it. When you can't take it anymore, just tell me the information I want. I'll give you a quick death." After he finished speaking, without waiting for Hong Wuliang to speak, he grabbed Hong Wuliang's hand and placed it on the stone slab. Then, he raised a huge rock with his right hand and smashed it down viciously. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. There was a tragic cry. Although Hong Wuliang gritted his teeth, he still underestimated the power of this 100-fold sensitivity. He only felt an extremely intense pain spreading through his body so clearly. Lang Yilang's face was as cold as a piece of metal. The huge rock in his hand smashed down again and again. Hong Wuliang's tragic cries also rose and fell. The saddest thing for him was that even though the pain was enough to make him faint 100 times during normal times after taking the 100 spirits pill, he still wouldn't faint. Moreover, he still maintained the clearest state of mind to feel the pain. He was trembling all over, but his face was rosy and he was full of vigor. As if he was doing something pleasing to the eye, Lang Yilang kept smashing the rock in his hand down again and again and again. His eyes were filled with the joy of finally getting his revenge. Very carefully, he smashed Hong Wuliang's fingers into smithereens according to the order of each joint. There was absolutely no order that was out of order at all. With every rock smashed down, Lang Yilang would say in a low voice, "Xia, I've finally avenged you. Can you see that? The second update. I'll continue writing the third update. Give me some monthly votes to encourage me. G. To be continued." Chapter 1266. Hong Wuliang's screams became more and more tragic. Lang Yilang's gaze became more and more affectionate. At first, Wei Wuyan was still watching with great pleasure. But gradually, he started to turn his head away. In the end, he even turned his back. This person was his greatest enemy. The tragedy of his life was all because of him. But why was it that he still couldn't bear to do it? The stones fell again and again until they finally turned into powder. Hong Wuliang's left hand was also smashed into a pile of minced meat. Hong Wuliang's screams also gradually died down. Finally, his eyes rolled back and he fainted. Lang Yilang didn't panic. He took out another 100 spirits pill and fed it to him, considerately helping him to circulate his energy and dissolve the effects of the pill. Then, he woke him up and let him regain his rosy complexion. Then, he picked up another stone from the ground. Taking Hong Wuliang's right hand, he pried open his 5 fingers and measured them carefully. Then, he smashed the stone down hard. He didn't ask questions like, "Are you going to tell me or not?" Instead, he just smashed the stone down savagely. It was as if this had already become his greatest pleasure. His gaze was persistent and his wrist was steady. The flesh and blood flying in front of him seemed to be a beautiful painting, making him feel relaxed and happy. He muttered silently, "Xia, do you see this? Xia, do you see this?" Hong Wuliang was screaming miserably, the muscles on his face contorting into all kinds of strange shapes. Lang Yilang smashed the stone as he muttered. Suddenly, tears streamed down his face. Wei Wuyan finally couldn't take it anymore. He said, "Elder Lang, if you really want to torture him, there should be a lot of cruel punishments like breaking his tendons and bones, right? You're in charge of the torture chamber, so you should know more, right? Why do you have to? Why do you have to use this most ordinary and disgusting method?" He didn't say this out loud. But Lang Yilang understood. As Lang Yilang smashed the stone non-stop, tears streamed down his face. He choked and said, "Xia's cultivation is low. She can't understand what I'm using. Since I'm avenging her, I'll use the method that she can understand the most. She's watching. She's smiling. I can feel it." Lang Elang bit his lip. Tears flowed down his face as he smashed the stone down hard. Wei Wuyen heaved a long sigh. Wuyen. Wuyen. Ah. Hong Wuliang screamed. Suddenly, he shouted Wei Wuyen's name like a madman. Considering that we are master and disciple, just kill me. Just kill me. Please kill me, I beg you. Wei Wuyen's body was trembling. In front of his eyes, the silhouette of his dead wife and son suddenly appeared. He became irritable and roared, "Then when you killed my wife and son, did you ever think that you were my master? It's my fault. Please kill me. Kill me to avenge your wife." Hong Wuliang cried out miserably. Right at this moment, Lang Elang struck out with one hand. Wei Wuyen shuddered all over and couldn't move at all. "Although you might not be persuaded by him. But I don't want to take the risk. I just want to torture him to death," Lang Elang said dispassionately, "so, I'll have to trouble you. You just have to watch and listen." Hong Wuliang started cursing. "Lang Elang. You bastard. You bastard. You adulterer. I wish I could." But right after, his curses turned into screams again. After a long while, when Lang Elang had smashed Hong Wuliang's arms into meat paste, he suddenly stopped and asked, "Are you hungry?" As he spoke, he took out a knife and cut off the meat paste with a few slashes. After cutting it into a few pieces, he pinched Hong Wuliang's nose and stuffed the meat paste that Hong Wuliang's arms had turned into piece by piece into his mouth. He said apologetically, "I forgot that I should have let you eat something. If you don't eat, how would you have the stamina to be tortured by me?" Hong Wuliang whimpered. He desperately wanted to vomit. However, as Lang Elang fed him, he circulated his energy to help him digest the food. Hong Wuliang couldn't scream or vomit. Even fainting had become an extravagant hope. In just a short while, Hong Wuliang's stomach bulged. He had actually swallowed his entire arm. "Since you're full, let's continue working. Hong Wuliang, don't beg for mercy. I'll be disappointed." Lang Elang gritted his teeth. He reached out and pulled Hong Wuliang's left leg over as well. "I'll let you eat yourself bit by bit," Lang Elang said fiercely. "No. Lang Elang. Brother Lang. I've let you down. I'm not human. Spare me. Kill me." Hong Wuliang finally broke down. Who knew what it felt like to eat one's own flesh? Hong Wuliang finally couldn't take it anymore. "You know what I want." Lang Elang hit his left leg with a stone. "If I speak too slowly, you'll start eating your own leg. I'll speak. But after I'm done, please give me a quick death. I beg you." Hong Wuliang's tears and snot flowed out together. "You speak too slowly." Lang Elang hit him with a stone again. "I'm the one in charge now. All right, as long as you speak the truth, I'll kill you. I'll give you a quick death." "You mean what you say?" Hong Wuliang's eyes lit up. Since when had a supreme martial artist actually turned seeking death into his greatest wish? Bam! Lang Elang hit him with a stone. One of his toes shattered and turned into minced meat. "Don't say anything if you don't believe me. I'll speak." Hong Wuliang was in so much pain that his whole body convulsed. He gasped and said, "I'll speak. It's like this. That day, I was married to Xia for 10 years. I robbed a rich family." Hiss. As he spoke, he sucked in a breath of cold air and trembled. "I intercepted a purple crystal core. I hired someone to make this purple crystal core into a piece of jewelry. I was very happy to go home and give this jewelry to her." Hong Wuliang suddenly burst into tears. "I love her too. Do you understand? I also want her to be happy. I've carefully coaxed her all these years. But when I happily gave this piece of jewelry to her, she was unhappy. She wasn't happy. I was drinking in the living room while she was in the room. The more I drank, the more depressed I felt. Why was she still unhappy even though I tried so hard to coax her? It was then that I heard her reciting a poem softly. After I finished listening to it, the alcohol rushed to my head and I suddenly became very violent. I rushed in and gave her a beating. I didn't expect that I would actually beat her to death." Hong Wuliang bawled, snot and tears running down his face. I really didn't want to beat her to death. But when I hit her, not only did she not avoid it, she even sent her body towards me. I drank a little too much again. Lang Yilang's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. He asked bitterly, a poem? What poem? She said. Even if one has 1,000 dendrobium pearls, her dowry will no longer be old. Priceless treasures are easy to find, but it's hard to find a lover. Hong Wuliang moaned and screamed. Suddenly, he roared fiercely, it's just these 4 lines, it's nothing much. It's just that after she finished reciting, she actually repeated the last 3 words. Have a lover. 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 Fuck her. What did I do wrong to her? Even until she died, she was talking about you. What's so good about you? You bastard, what's so good about you? Which part of you is better than me? Lang Yilang was already stunned. Priceless treasures are easy to find, but it's hard to find a lover. Have a lover. Lover. He didn't expect this. Xia Er's death was actually because of this. Because of him. Suddenly, he roared fiercely. With tears streaming down his face, he picked up a huge rock and smashed it down viciously. As he smashed it down, he screamed madly, Xia Er. Xia Er. Xia Er. My Xia Er. His screams were shrill and mournful, just like an injured lone wolf howling at the sky in the wilderness. It was a feeling of his heart being broken and splitting apart piece by piece. Lang Yilang was screaming madly, but Hong Wuliang actually also became excited under this kind of even more intensive attacks. He shouted loudly, she's mine. She's mine. Mine. Both of them were screaming and screaming as if they were struggling for their lives. It was as if they were fighting and comparing whose voice was louder. The rock in Lang Yilang's hand quickly shattered into pieces. He picked up another rock and smashed it down viciously. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. His screams traveled far and wide, piercing through the clouds. The snowflakes in the sky gradually increased in intensity. The clouds became thicker and thicker. The sound of the wind also became more and more shrill. After a long time, there was no sound anymore. Lang Yilang threw down the blood-stained rock in his hand in a daze. The rock fell to the ground with a clang. His heart also trembled a little. Hong Wuliang, who was on the ground, had already turned into a pile of meat paste from head to toe. In this bout of uncontrollable attacks, Lang Yilang couldn't control himself and smashed Hong Wuliang's entire body into meat paste. Hong Wuliang had disappeared from this world forever. A string of tears silently rolled down the eyes of Wei Wuyan, who had been unable to move all this while. All of a sudden, he felt an emptiness in his heart, as if he was all alone in a vast and uninhabited wilderness. Lang Yilang stood up. His body swayed a little before he sat down again. He sat there in a daze, his eyes empty. After a long time, he hugged his head with both hands and covered his face. He squatted down and slowly lowered his body. Suddenly, he sprawled on the snowy ground and burst into tears. I've taken revenge. Sob sob. I've taken revenge for you. Xia The wind whistled shrilly as it swept across the sky. It was as if the heavens were letting out a deep sigh. It was only after a long while that Lang Yilang finally turned around with trembling lips and gave Wei Wuyan a pat. Wei Wuyan felt that he could move again right away. He turned around and was about to speak when he got a huge shock all of a sudden. Lang Yilang's face was full of wrinkles and he looked old. His hair, which was still black and shiny just a moment ago, had already turned white. He actually seemed to have aged by several thousand years in an instant. It's all over. Lang Yilang sighed. When he said this, his lips were trembling lightly and his body seemed to have curled up as well. Hugging his arms, he squatted down as if he couldn't withstand the cold. Burying his head, he sighed deeply again. It's all over, yes. It's all over. Wei Wuyan repeated. He understood Lang Yilang's feelings very well. Because his heart was also feeling empty right now, the two of them were speechless. Suddenly, a dispassionate voice said, "No, it's not over yet. Master Lang, it's really been a long time since we last met." Chapter 1267. The moment this voice sounded, Wei Wuyan was stunned. It was completely unexpected. What was unexpected wasn't this person's sudden appearance, but because, even with Lang Yilang's cultivation, he actually didn't notice that someone was hiding at the side. Lang Yilang didn't move. Not a single part of his body moved, but his aura suddenly changed. It became as sharp as an arrow released from a bow. In addition, the merciless and ruthless aura that had just disappeared from his body also returned sternly. Without turning around, he said dispassionately, "Li? Li Qingyun." That voice chuckled. As expected of Master Lang, "It's been 200 years since we last met, but you actually still remember my voice." Following the laughter, an elderly man in white suddenly and quietly appeared in front of the two of them. "Li Qingyun, why is the Li clan here?" Lang Yilang's expression didn't change as he asked dispassionately. Master Lang, are you implying that this old man has not heard of Master Lang's sentimental past?" Li Qingyun smiled with narrowed eyes. This was a rather disrespectful question. Furthermore, it was an admission that he had been eavesdropping the whole time. Lang Yilang's expression turned cold. He said dispassionately, "Isn't it very interesting?" "Not necessarily. It's just that I didn't expect Master Lang's past to be so tragic." Li Qingyun said, "Even this old man is touched." Lang Yilang laughed strangely. "So, the Li clan's target is me. Li Qingyun, let's not beat around the bush. Give me your reason." Li Qingyun heaved a long sigh. He said, "Master Lang, this old man has come out this time for two reasons. Firstly, to assist Master Lang in capturing the extraterrestrial demon's accomplices. Secondly, I just want to invite Master Lang to the Li clan so that the Li clan can play the role of host. We have no intention of becoming enemies with you, much less targeting you. Please don't misunderstand, Master Lang." With his hands behind his back, Lang Yilang looked up at the sky and said softly, "What if I say no?" Li Qingyun's eyes flickered. He said, "Cough, it's better that Master Lang agrees. This place is remote and the mountains are high and the pits are deep. If you get lost here, it'll be very difficult to find the way back." Lang Yilang sneered. Right at this moment, figures moved. Lang Yilang's subordinates, as well as WN Renjie and the others, also noticed the abnormality. One after another, they leaped forward. After this period of recuperation, WN Renjie and the others had basically recovered their physical strength. Moreover, these ruthless law enforcement officers who were rumored to be cold and heartless didn't have any enmity towards them. They even prepared some water and dry food for the three of them to eat. This greatly surprised the three of them. It seemed like before Lang Yilang came here, he really had no intention of capturing them and bringing them to justice. He merely wanted to fulfill his long-cherished wish. WN Renjie walked up to Wei Wuyen. She looked at him questioningly. Wei Wuyen smiled sadly, "I'm fine." WN Renjie and the other two felt relieved. At this moment, there were 14 people on this side, but there was only Li Qingyun on the other side. What a grand formation! When Master Lang went out, he was indeed accompanied by a large entourage. Out of the 30 gold medal officers of the law enforcement officers, there's actually one accompanying him. Li Qingyun's eyes flickered as he chuckled with a relaxed expression. Lang Yilang said dispassionately, "Get your men to come out. Stop talking nonsense. I don't want to listen to your nonsense either. You want me, Lang Yilang, to visit the Li clan on my own accord? The Li clan isn't that big of a deal. Let's see who's stronger." Li Qingyun let out a long howl. He burst into laughter. "Master Lang isn't giving us face at all. Boys, come and sincerely invite us." Following his shout, everyone suddenly responded at the same time, "Master Lang, please make a trip to the Li clan." Figures flashed and appeared one after another. North, south, east and west. White-robed men walked over in an orderly manner. Wei Wuyen's heart sank. There were a total of 200 of them. Moreover, all of them were experts. Given Lang Yilang's current strength, there was no way he could challenge the other party at all. Lang Yilang's expression was cold and hard. He didn't say a word, but his gaze gradually became as cruel as a vulture's. They surrounded them from all sides, forming a huge encirclement, trapping everyone within. Li Qingyun smiled lightly. "Master Lang, The Li clan has sent out 1 second grade supreme martial artist, 1 fifth grade supreme martial artist, 2 fourth grade supreme martial artists, 5 third grade supreme martial artists, 5 second grade supreme martial artists, 10 first grade supreme martial artists, 50 second grade martial artists and 148th grade martial artist. With such a huge lineup and limitless sincerity, we invite Master Lang to visit the Li clan. Lang Yilang sneered. The lineup is not small, but the Li clan is not qualified enough. Master Lang will know very soon whether we are qualified enough or not. A sharp glint flashed across Li Qingyun's eyes. The difference in strength between the two parties was too huge. Lang Yilang had traveled light and traveled thousands of miles, while the Li clan had obviously planned this a long time ago and had been preparing for this for a long time. Now that the lineup had been revealed, the situation on Lang Yilang's side was so bad that it was almost impossible for them to retaliate. Lang Yilang and his subordinates' expressions didn't change at all, as if they were used to this and didn't take it to heart at all. Indifference was written all over their faces. They had been in charge of the torture chamber for a long time. What they had been doing all these years was to torture or kill people. As time passed, their temperament had already been honed. They were already used to life and death. Whether it was the lives of others or their own, in their eyes, it was as if they were indifferent. Li Qingyun smiled lightly. It was the smile of someone who had the entire situation under control. In his opinion, Lang Yilang would never be able to escape. And that was the truth. Amidst the snowstorm, a white figure flew over lightly. It landed at a distance of several thousand feet and then flew close to the ground. It was Chu Yang. He had followed the Li clan team and walked for a few days straight. It was only after confirming the direction of the target that he found this place. However, the other party had the advantage in numbers and experts. Chu Yang didn't dare to reveal himself either. It was only when these people suddenly appeared and didn't care about their backs at all that Chu Yang took the opportunity to get close to the place. At this moment, as he observed the situation, Chu Yang's brows furrowed slightly. Such a situation. It was really beyond his expectations. It was extremely vile. Even if he was included, Lang Yilang's side didn't have any chance of winning at all. But Chu Yang had to think of a way. Whether it was for the purple crystal mine of the second tribulation sword or for Wei Wuyan, Wn Renjie and the other three, he couldn't just stand by and watch. But now, more than 10 plans flashed through Chu Yang's mind in the blink of an eye. Compared to the current situation, not a single one of them was effective. He was truly at his wit's end. What should I do to get out of this predicament? Chu Yang's mind raced. He looked at the terrain. This was just a forest in a snowy land. Although there were ups and downs, they weren't huge. The worst thing was that there wasn't even a dense forest. And this was the northwest. Generally, any means that could be hidden in the snowy land would definitely be exposed in the eyes of the local tyrants, the Li clan. Moreover, there was another matter that gave Chu Yang a headache. It was also precisely because of this that he had the urge to curse at the appearance of these Li clan members. Both Wei Wuyan and Lang Yilang had just gotten their revenge and were feeling empty inside. At a time like this, even if others didn't kill or deal with them, they probably even had suicidal tendencies themselves. Yet, at a time like this, they had fallen into the range of a battle to the death. To the two of them, a pillow came just when they were about to doze off. Even if Chu Yang came up with a solution, the two of them might not leave. This was Chu Yang's biggest headache. If they really wanted to break out of the encirclement, with Chu Yang's current position, there was at least an 80% chance that they would succeed in breaking out of the encirclement. As for whether they would be caught after breaking out of the encirclement, that would be something to worry about after breaking out of the encirclement. But breaking out of the encirclement was something that they had confidence in. But if the two of them became stubborn and had nothing left to live for, then, even if Chu Yang were to take action, the biggest possibility was that he would be implicated by them and die here. What should he do about this? For a moment, Chu Yang was so worried that his hair almost turned white. The smell of gunpowder was getting stronger and stronger. The one you want to deal with is only me. Lang Yilang's eyes didn't move. He said dispassionately, Let these 4 leave first. These 4 people have nothing to do with me. Li Qingyun obviously didn't want to cause more trouble. If he wanted to keep these 4 people here, he would probably have to pay a hefty price. He nodded and said, although these 4 people are the extraterrestrial demon's accomplices, they have nothing to do with the extraterrestrial demons. However, that has nothing to do with the Li clan. If the 4 of you wish to leave, please do so now. Elder Lang has helped me take my revenge. At a time like this, how can I, Wei Wuyan, drag out an ignoble existence and leave? As Chu Yang expected, Wei Wuyan said emotionally, Brother WN, all of you can leave. Wan Renjie was surprised and displeased. Are the 3 of us afraid of death? Cheng Duiying and Bao Buhuan agreed. Boss is right. In the dark, Chu Yang lowered his head, completely speechless. The 4 of you are so stubborn, I'm really speechless. If all of you leave first, with only Lang Yilang and the others left, it would be easier for them to break out of the encirclement since they have worked together for so many years. If it really doesn't work out, it's also possible for me to suddenly take action at the last moment to kidnap Lang Yilang. In any case, the Li clan would definitely not bear to kill Lang Yilang, but with the 4 of you here, Chu Yang was really at a loss for what to do. No matter how capable I am, I can't possibly take 5 people and fly away right under the eyes of a low-grade supreme martial artist. Isn't this going to make me worry to death? Good. What a loyal and righteous man. What a man of the martial world. Li Qingyun sneered. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, I shall fulfill your righteousness and let you be heroes. With a wave of his hand, he shouted, cut these 4 people into 8 pieces. 4 people from the Li clan walked out quietly. They bowed and said, your orders. Li Qingyun said, approved. The 4 of them turned around in unison and strode toward them. Their targets were Wei Wuyan and the other 3. Lang Yilang's expression was cold and callous. He shouted, how dare you touch the people that I, Lang Yilang, want to protect? Gold plate officers. Kill these 4 for me. Black robes flashed and 4 gold plate officers moved out at the same time. A great battle was about to break out. Li Qingyun shouted, no need to care about their identities as law enforcement officers. Kill all of them. I only want Lang Yilang alive. With a long roar, more than 200 people from the Li clan attacked at the same time. It snowed yesterday. I took my wife with me and called my friends out to play. 3 to 4 cars were filled with people. Everyone went out excitedly, ready to go to the mountains to watch the snow. One of my brothers even brought 2 dogs with him. He said that snowy days were a good time to catch rabbits. Cough. The snow in the city had already melted. When we reached the mountains, there were only pitiful patches of snow. But everyone was in high spirits. They howled and barked. After barking for a long time, they still didn't manage to catch any rabbits. The rabbits ran in front while the dogs chased after them. A thin dog's hind legs spasmed as it ran, but it still didn't manage to catch any rabbits. Cough. Thus, everyone returned home and sent the dogs back. The women agreed to go shopping while the men went drinking. 7 to 8 of them started drinking from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 4 o'clock. Then, they bragged and continued drinking at 7 o'clock in the evening. When they were done drinking, they went to sing. All of them sang in strange accents until their voices were hoarse. When he woke up today, he felt refreshed. It was just that his throat hurt terribly. The moment he spoke, his wife got a shock. His voice had turned into a male duck's voice. The wife of one of his comrades called to complain. She said that after he got drunk last night, he even turned on the television and turned on the sound system. Then, he hugged the microphone and sang karaoke like a wolf. It was already past 2 o'clock in the morning. As expected, he received a complaint. In any case, he had completely relaxed last night. Cough, he had indeed relaxed. But, it was time to get nervous after relaxing. Cough, the first update has arrived. I'll continue writing the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, begging for votes. G. To be continued. Chapter 1268. Li Qingyun was despondent. And something that he didn't expect at all happened. The moment the battle started, Li Qingyun rose into the air. Spreading his arms, he flew into the air and went straight for Lang Yilong. Soldier against soldier, general against general. This was the true way of killing. Master Lang, you've been hiding your strength all this while. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I really wouldn't have dared to believe that your cultivation has already reached supreme martial artist level. Li Qingyun shouted in the air, "Let me have a taste of Master Lang's purple crystal hand." His shout was, firstly, to intimidate Lang Yilong. Secondly, to warn everyone on his side. Lang Yilong was far from the third-grade supreme martial artist that everyone thought him to be, but a second-grade supreme martial artist. They must be careful. The rumor previously that Lang Yilong was in seclusion to break through to third-grade supreme martial artist was actually wrong. Lang Yilong's eyes flashed. He said dispassionately, "So the Li clan is here for this." With a jolt, he went straight for him. Li Qingyun let out a hearty laugh. With a spin, sword light shot out. Lang Yilong's expression didn't change. He went up to him just like that. Seeing that the two of them were about to fight in the air, the most unexpected thing happened. This accident made it so that he didn't even have time to change his move or retreat. Right before their weapons were about to be removed, Lang Yilong actually threw out his sword hand fiercely. Then, he removed all his defenses and turned it all into an attack. He clapped his hands in the air. With a loud smack, his palms were revealed. Purple light shone brightly and purple aura filled the air. Purple crystal hand. Lang Yilong crashed headfirst into Li Qingyun's sword light. But the reason why Lang Yilong didn't defend was precisely for this moment. Smack, smack. 2 palms. One on his chest and one on his dantian. Lang Yilong, you lunatic who doesn't care about your life. Li Qingyun shouted and somersaulted in the air. Even though he was in midair, his heart was already cold. Never would he have thought that Lang Yilong would start fighting with his life at the start of the battle. Oh, no. He wasn't fighting with his life. He was obviously the one who didn't care about his own life and treated it as child's play. He also wanted to strike the enemy with his amethyst hands twice. This time, the purple crystal hand had been used by Lang Yilong, who was at the supreme martial artist level. It was even more powerful. The most terrifying thing was that the palm had landed directly on his dantian. Li Qingyun only felt a strange force rapidly entering his meridians. Following which, all the energy in his body began to assimilate with this force. It slowly dissipated. Li Qingyun really wanted to cry. What should he do now? Based on this speed, he would need at least 3,000 purple crystals from the first day he treated the purple crystal hand, and it might not be enough. 4 streams of blood spurted out from all over Lang Yilong's body. His chest had been completely pierced through. His internal organs were also damaged by this sword strike. In just a single exchange, the leaders of both sides had suffered fatal injuries, but Lang Yilong didn't care at all. With a pale face, he smiled faintly and said, "Brother Li, you have already experienced the purple crystal hand. The taste is not bad, right?" Li Qingyun almost wanted to bang his head against the ground. "Lang Yilong, you bastard." He was so furious that he couldn't continue. Lang Yilong said calmly, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, Brother Li. The supreme martial artist level purple crystal hand increases in number of days. On the first day, it might need 3,000 purple crystals. On the second day, it will be 1,000 millimeter. On the third day, 12,000. On the fourth day, 24,000. On the fifth day, 48,000. Stop talking." Li Qingyun's heart was cold. He let out a furious roar. On the sixth day, 10,000. On the seventh day, it will be 12,000. Lang Yilong chuckled. "Brother Li, I heard that the Li clan has a large purple crystal mine. But how many days can this large purple crystal mine last you?" As he chuckled, blood was already flowing out from the corners of his mouth. Li Qingyun's face was contorted. Just as Lang Yilong had said, he had suffered from such a domineering purple crystal hand. Even if the Li clan mined out all the purple crystal mines, including those that couldn't be mined, they probably wouldn't be able to sustain him for a month. Once the supply of purple crystals to the purple crystal hand was cut off, then. At the thought of how terrifying the purple crystal hand was, Li Qingyun was completely disheartened. With the purple crystal hand, once the supply of purple crystals is cut off, you won't be able to control your cultivation. Even if you want to commit suicide, you won't be able to do it. Lang Yilong smiled cruelly. Your entire body will slowly become as hard as purple crystals. After 3 days, even if you ask someone to help you on your way, they won't be able to move your body anymore. However, the inside of your body will be enduring endless pain. Then, starting from your fingers and toes, you will slowly turn into purple crystal powder and fall off bit by bit. All the way until you die, your mind will be very clear. The purple crystal hand is beyond the immortal and the mortal. It locks onto the spirit. Both your body and spirit will bear the pain and be destroyed together. You will die and your Tao will vanish without a trace. Lang Yilong choked and coughed. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth, but he didn't even wipe it off. He said, therefore, in the legend of the purple crystal hand, there's this saying: once the purple crystal is used, there will be 18 levels of hell. I'm very ashamed to say that I haven't reached the level where I can use all 18 levels of hell with a single strike. But now, I've already reached more than 10 levels, Lang Yilong chuckled. Take your time to enjoy it. I, Lang Yilong, will be waiting for you in the underworld. Ah, I was wrong. Because I won't be able to wait for you. Your spirit has already been destroyed. To Lang Yilong, those 2 strikes just now were also fatal injuries. Everyone was stunned at this moment. Crazy. Lang Yilong had definitely gone crazy. Give me the antidote. Li Qingyun roared, looking extremely forlorn. When have you ever heard that there's an antidote for the purple crystal hand? Lang Yilong swayed. If there's an antidote, why would I cultivate the purple crystal hand? Master. The officers from the interrogation hall stepped forward at the same time and called out in concern. Cough cough. I can't do it anymore either. Lang Yilong chuckled. Dying here can also be considered as returning to my roots. I'm very sorry for dragging all of you into danger. Now, brothers, listen to my last order. Order. Lang Yilong roared. Present. The officers stood ramrod straight and listened to the order. I order all of you to charge out of the encirclement at all costs, return to the interrogation hall and report my death. Lang Yilong said fiercely, anyone who disobeys my orders is not my brother, regardless of life or death. Master. Someone cried out mournfully. Receive the order. Lang Yilong shouted furiously. I receive the order. Someone lowered his head dejectedly. I'll pave the way. Lang Yilong straightened his body. Wei Wuyen, if you don't want your brothers to die with you, charge out with them. Wei Wuyen took a deep breath. Yes. Purple crystal hand, heavenly reversal power. Lang Yilong roared fiercely. Suddenly, he straightened his body. A layer of clear purple light enveloped him at once. The blood on his chest and back actually miraculously stopped flowing. This is the final technique of the purple crystal hand, heavenly reversal power. It can restore all of its cultivation in the shortest amount of time. However, after half an hour, it will be completely drained. If you don't want me to die with everlasting regrets, follow me. Suddenly, he turned around and strode toward the Li clan's human wall. With tears in his eyes, this officer followed behind Lang Yilong without any hesitation. This might be the last time in his life that he would be following behind the master. At the sight of Lang Yilong walking toward them, many Li clan members shuddered. Fear appeared on their faces and they couldn't help but retreat. Kill them! Kill them! Li Qingyun shouted furiously. I want to torture these bastards to death in the cruelest way possible. Kill them! Lang Yilong let out a maniacal laugh. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he shot forward. Li Qingyun let out a loud roar. In a flash, he stood in front of Lang Yilong and fought with his life. Right now, Li Qingyun no longer cared about Lang Yilong's purple crystal hand. Since he had already made his move, it wouldn't matter if he got hit again. The most important thing right now was to get rid of Lang Yilong. Li Qingyun had already given up on everything. He didn't dodge or evade at all. Instead, he fought head-on. Right now, The leaders of both sides already didn't care about their lives anymore. The Li clan members surrounded them and started fighting. With a roar, Wei Wuyan and the others drew their swords and sabers. Right from the start, the battle was already unprecedentedly tragic. Before the weakest subordinate could even get injured, Lang Yilang and Li Qingyun were already bleeding from all 7 orifices. With a loud bang, Li Qingyun's left hand flew out along with his shoulder. At the same time, Lang Yilang's left hand and forearm also flew away from home. It was only then that people from both sides started screaming and grunting. With the Wuyan sword in hand, sword light shot out like a waterfall as Wei Wuyan charged forward with Wn Renjie and the other 2. This officer also roared and tried to break out of the encirclement. However, the overall strength of the Li clan was more than 10 times higher than theirs. If not for the fact that they were wary of Lang Yilang's purple crystal hand and didn't dare to get too close to him, they would probably already be dead. With a loud roar, Wei Wuyan let out his left shoulder and pierced his sword into the chest of the enemy in front of him. At the same time, his shoulder was also slashed by someone else. Blood splattered everywhere. Like a mad tiger, Wei Wuyan charged outward. The Li clan members tried their best to stop him. Right at this moment, at the back of the Li clan, a dazzling light lit up silently. Chu Yang had no choice but to make a move. From the looks of it, Lang Yilang would probably have passed away if he had made a move a moment later. Once Lang Yilang died, the deterrence would be gone. Wei Wuyan and the others definitely wouldn't have any hope of charging out. This sword strike carried with it a revolving force. After Chu Yang changed the order of the moves that the Calamity Sword had disrupted, they were gathered together. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? The sun and moon will be my generals. Severing the worldly affairs of the world. Gathering of the clouds and clouds. 4 moves. The Li clan members who were fighting with all their might would never have imagined that on their way here, a peerless killing god would suddenly appear behind them, sharpening his blade. Begging for votes. I'll continue to write the 3rd update, and G. to be continued. Chapter 1269. Covered in blood, Wei Wuyan was charging forward with his brothers. When he raised his head, his eyes suddenly lit up. Right in front of them, more than 100 feet away, a dazzling ball of sword light was rapidly taking shape with a domineering aura that could devour everything. A man in white appeared without a sound. It was actually Chu Yang. At this moment, Wei Wuyan was overjoyed. Although he didn't know how Chu Yang managed to come here without a sound, based on the current situation, as long as Chu Yang cooperated with them from the outside, there wouldn't be any problem in opening up a path for them to break out of the encirclement. Wn Renjie and the other 2 finally wouldn't have to die because of him. Soft hissing sounds suddenly rang in the air, as if something was brewing and trembling. It was as if the entire world was also trembling along with this strange sound. Someone from the Li clan seemed to have vaguely sensed the abnormality. He hurriedly turned back to take a look, only to see that a ball-like ball of light had already taken shape. The moment he turned back, it actually turned into a beam of sword light with a diameter of 10 feet. Dazzling all over, it flew toward him like a rainbow. This Li clan expert was scared out of his wits. He shouted, "Enemy attack!" The surrounding Li clan members didn't know whether to laugh or cry at once. They were in the middle of a battle to begin with. How could there be no enemy attack? This bastard's brain must be damaged. But the next moment, a sharp sound of wind suddenly rang out. Chu Yang's sword had already surpassed the speed of sound. After the sword light was released, it had already reached its target. It was only then that the sound of the sword whistling could be heard. They were completely caught off guard. It was completely unexpected. The sword flew up like a rainbow. With a sword aura that could destroy everything. It pounced into the crowd ruthlessly. It was as if a huge whale full of destructive power had entered a group of small shrimps. Chu Yang shouted after he had struck with his sword, "Go this way." Like a thunderbolt, the sword light exploded violently in the crowd. Cries of agony rang out. Heads rolled and flew into the sky. Broken limbs flew in all directions. Chu Yang had already charged into the encirclement. His sword collided violently with Li Qingyun, who reacted hastily. Li Qingyun was attacked from both the front and back. In front of him was Lang Yilang, who was charging forward desperately. Behind him was a completely unexpected and sudden attack. With a loud cry, he spat out a mouthful of blood and rolled on the ground. He staggered and retreated diagonally. The recoil from the supreme grade sword made Chu Yang taste something sweet in his throat. A mouthful of blood almost came out of his throat, but he immediately swallowed it back. At this time, the revolving force that he had left behind in advance suddenly exploded. His body abruptly turned a half circle, and with a flash of sword light, he once again shot out 100 feet. However, he had already turned back. Stepping on the blood on the ground, he rushed out. "Follow me." Lang Yilang abruptly stepped aside to open up a path. One of the officers had already been sacrificed. The other 8, together with Wei Wuyan and the others, charged out madly behind Chu Yang. Lang Yilang stayed behind to bring up the rear. "If it was to kill the enemy, I'll take the lead. If you want to break out, I'll bring up the rear." Lang Yilang let out a wry laugh. He recalled how Hong Wuliang had once patted his chest and said to him, "We're brothers." Back then, when he had befriended Hong Wuliang and treated each other with utmost sincerity, Hong Wuliang had once patted his chest and said, "We're brothers." Although Hong Wuliang had never taken the lead in killing the enemy, nor had he ever broken out of the encirclement to bring up the rear, this sentence was carried out by Lang Yilang, who had been a listener back then, in his entire life. Perhaps Hong Wuliang would never have thought that the touch he gave him back then would lead him to where he was today. Lang Yilang followed behind his brothers. His left hand was already broken and was still dripping with blood. However, he didn't care. As he ran, he paid attention to the movements of the enemy behind him. After a brief moment of shock, the Li clan members immediately let out furious and sorrowful cries. This sudden sword strike just now had actually caused the Li clan team to lose more than 20 people. "Chase! At all cost!" One of them roared, "Avenge our brothers! Kill these bastards!" Li Qingyun staggered and landed on the ground, not caring that he had yet to calm his breathing. He immediately gave chase. It was a deep hatred. No matter what, even if he had to die immediately, he had to kill Lang Yilang first. Like a raging whirlwind, the Li clan members gave chase. Thud, thud, thud. It was only at this moment that those heads that had suddenly been chopped off by Chu Yang's sword fell onto the snowy ground. As though a cart of watermelons had been overturned, they rolled here and there on the snowy ground. Lang Yilang, who had been galloping, suddenly stopped. His entire body and both his hands trembled strangely. He took a deep breath. The next moment, he suddenly struck. Facing his pursuers, he suddenly leaned forward and roared, "Monstrous raging waves." That's right, this was the most powerful move that he had ever learned in his entire life. Raging waves. This was also the origin of the nickname Raging Waves. Lang Yilang. Raging Waves was a move with boundless power. Once it was unleashed, its power was like the rising tides of the sea, wave after wave. Someone had once joked, "The waves of 10,000 feet high go wild, and thousands of lives don't last long." Raging waves, each wave stronger than the last, cough. Although it was a joke, each wave stronger than the last, cough. That was a true portrayal of this move. Although there was no water here, there was snow. With a whoosh, it was as though an avalanche had broken through the mountains at this moment. A wall of snow suddenly rose up in front of Lang Yilang. Then, it turned into a snow wave. It was a good 400 to 500 feet wide, surging fiercely toward the Li clan members who had already caught up. Behind them, there were still snow waves brewing and pouncing toward them. Tragic screams and muffled groans rang out continuously. A furious bellow rang out, "This is Raging Waves." A figure broke through the snow wall, creating a huge hole. In the blink of an eye, a figure broke through the internal energy seal like an arrow and shot out. The moment he appeared, 2 lightning-fast palms struck Lang Yilang's chest. Lang Yilang's body shook and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at the person in disbelief. "Li Qinglei. You." Before he could finish, there was a sudden cracking sound from his chest. His entire chest caved in. Like a kite with a broken string, he flew out. "Li Qinglei." an early-stage 7th-grade supreme martial artist. He was the real main force and leading figure in this mission to capture Lang Yilang. Originally, due to his status, he had no intention of making a move at all. He only wanted to take advantage of the situation and take Lang Yilang down. With such a strong force, if they couldn't take down a mere Lang Yilang, then these people should really hang themselves. Besides, Li Qinglei was also honestly rather wary of Lang Yilang's purple crystal hand. If he failed miserably at such an easy task, then it would really be over for him. There was no way to counter the purple crystal hand. But he seriously didn't expect things to develop to this extent. In his opinion, Li Qingyun's injury was practically courting death. He clearly knew that the other party had the purple crystal hand, yet he still dared to get so close to him. He clearly knew that the other party had just taken revenge for the greatest vengeance in his life and was determined to die. Yet, he just had to go up and perish together with him. Li Qingyun could only blame himself for being stupid. It didn't pose much of an obstacle to the strength of the Li clan this time, but he seriously didn't expect that there would actually be someone hiding at the side as well, launching a fatal attack on his men right under his nose. As a result, Lang Yilang and the others actually rushed out temporarily. This was undoubtedly a hard slap to Li Qinglei's face. Therefore, Li Qinglei was enraged. Without any regard for his status, he attacked fiercely. His first move severely injured Lang Yilang. The internal energy that Lang Yilang had gathered with his purple crystal's resurrection heaven again was completely scattered by these two palms. As if weightless, his body drifted backward in the wind and snow. The torrential waves that he had created were still wreaking havoc, but he had already lost consciousness. A figure suddenly appeared in the wind and snow. It was Chu Yang. He reached out. Catching Lang Yilang's body, he spun around and took advantage of the small space where Li Qinglei was still dispelling Lang Yilang's counterforce to flee at lightning speed. Li Qinglei was enraged. "Stop right there." He flew after him. 4 figures suddenly appeared. It was the 4 officers who had actually turned around at this moment. "Take our lord away. We beg of you." The 4 of them pleaded with Chu Yang. Then, almost without any hesitation, they charged toward Li Qinglei. At this moment, the torrential waves finally lost their momentum and the Li clan members rushed over. The 4 officers burst into laughter and suddenly linked arms. Standing in a row, they charged toward the Li clan members with Li Qinglei in the lead. The next moment, a loud boom reverberated throughout the heavens and earth. A mountain peak 1,000 feet away was actually shaken to the point of collapsing. 4 officers, 4 supreme martial artists. At the last moment, they activated the secret technique of life. They gathered all their life force at this moment, using their own bodies as the medium and the heavens and earth as the medium. If they touched the supreme martial artist taboo, they would be destroyed indiscriminately. They turned their own bodies into a huge bomb. When the 4 of them self-destructed in unison, the power was even more earth-shattering. Supreme martial artist taboo. That meant, as long as this move was used, it would be taboo even for a low-grade supreme martial artist. What more when the 4 of them self-destructed in unison? Li Qinglei let out a strange cry and forcibly stopped his forward momentum. Then, he retreated abruptly. He felt a weight on his back, as if an entire mountain had suddenly pressed down on him without warning. He retreated several hundred feet in an instant. Then, he had to spin around 7 to 8 times before he managed to offset the pressure. Among the Li clan members who had already charged over, the few who were at the very front suddenly let out a strange cry. Then, like ordinary people who had been rammed by a raging bull, they were sent flying backward while flailing their arms and legs. By the time the explosion was over, a huge crater had appeared on the ground. It was several thousand feet deep, and its length and width were even more shocking. Almost 1/3 of the Li clan members were severely injured in this explosion. All those who were first-grade supreme martial artists and below were injured simultaneously. There were even more than 10 people who were killed by the impact. In the land of heavy snow ahead, the group that had been fleeing had already disappeared without a trace. No one knew which direction they had gone in. The snowstorm drifted down, covering all traces in just an instant. What more when it was accompanied by such a terrifying explosion? After them. I want to see him, dead or alive. Li Qinglei's expression was very ugly. In the northwest, even if they have wings, they won't be able to escape. The third update has arrived. I'll continue to write the fourth update. Chapter 1270. On a snowy plain. Chu Yang took the lead, carrying Lang Yilang on his back and advancing rapidly. Wei Wuyen, Wn Renjie, and the other two followed closely behind him. Up until now, they hadn't even had the chance to exchange a single word with each other. The scenery on both sides flashed by continuously like shadows. Chu Yang's whereabouts were extremely strange. If not for the fact that Wei Wuyen and the others were following closely behind, they would have lost track of him in almost the blink of an eye. The four officers followed closely behind, their faces filled with grief and indignation. They had deliberately followed behind so that if the enemy caught up to them again, they would imitate the previous four and self-destruct to stop the enemy. They were all experts. After hastily treating their injuries and stopping the bleeding, they used traceless snow again. With a swoosh, they actually didn't leave a single trace behind in this snowy plain. Hold your breath. Even if you're suffocated to death, you have to breathe only when you're about to die, Chu Yang said in a low voice as he flew rapidly. No one made a sound, but their eyes showed that they had heard him. Everyone understood that Chu Yang's words were the key to whether they would succeed in escaping or not. Everyone had already sealed off all traces of their aura. Under such circumstances, only the sound, heat, and smell of their breathing would become the only things that the enemy could track them down. As long as they pulled away from the enemy's line of sight in the early stages of escaping, then held their breath and cut off all possible channels for information to leak out, they would be able to buy a little more time. And this extra time would be the key to whether they would succeed in escaping or not. This period of time would be the real battle of wits and courage. How to escape from the enemy's base camp required extremely precise planning. If they didn't even have this time to plan, then that would be the real tragedy. There would be absolutely no hope of escaping. It was conceivable that once they lost track of them, the clan would definitely mobilize. The Li clan would definitely mobilize their entire clan. Even if they had to turn the entire northwest upside down, they would definitely not let them leave. If news of them attacking the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall were to spread to the law enforcement hall, it would definitely be a nightmare for the Li clan. As Chu Yang advanced rapidly, he dispersed his internal energy to dissipate and eliminate the breath of the unconscious Lang Yilang on his back as well as the smell of blood on him. Everyone followed Chu Yang as they fled hurriedly. After running at full speed for a full 6 hours without panting, everyone felt as if their lungs were about to explode. He felt like he had gone around in circles. Finally, a plane appeared in front of him. The flat terrain created a flat snowfield. It was as far as the eye could see. If he were to escape on such a plane, he would definitely be seen by the enemy, but Chu Yang leaped up without any hesitation, carrying Lang Yilang on his back and entering this snowfield. Behind him, Wei Wuyen and the others followed without hesitation. The four officers hesitated for a moment before finally following him. Although he didn't understand Chu Yang's intentions. However, the chief was on his back, so he had no choice but to follow. In the next breath, Chu Yang suddenly stopped and stood on the flat snowy plains. Everyone was about to ask questions. However, Chu Yang waved his hand and pointed at his closed mouth, indicating that he shouldn't speak or pant. The next moment, Chu Yang's feet silently sank into the snow. Then, he continuously struck out with his hands. The snow on the ground was suddenly separated to two sides, revealing the black ground. The snow that was separated to two sides looked like it was overlapping with the layer of snow, but in reality, it was supported by Chu Yang's internal energy, keeping it suspended in the air. Then, Chu Yang punched a hole in the black ground. Under the snow was a layer of ice. After the layer of ice melted, the soil below was loose and soft. Chu Yang created a hole in a very short time and then pointed downwards. Realization dawned on everyone and they hurriedly went in. Chu Yang stayed at the back. Very carefully, he channeled his internal energy and quietly moved the layer of snow that was originally supported back. The moment he blocked the entrance of the hole, the piece of ice that was originally separated from the ground was held above Chu Yang's head and stuck there. At once, the hole was pitch black. Don't breathe. Make a hole first. The deeper, the better. Chu Yang hurriedly said a few words. Now that things had come to this, everyone could only listen to him for now. Everyone's cultivation was at least first-grade supreme martial artist. It was really too easy for them to make a hole in the soil. Take note, don't keep accumulating the soil. Try to keep it intact and put it behind you. I'll handle the rest, Chu Yang said hurriedly. In this way, everyone made a hole in the front while Chu Yang was at the back. He quietly wrapped the soil that everyone made with their internal energy and carried it towards the entrance of the hole. Then, he gently plugged it up. Then, he used his internal energy to carefully tamp it down. This was done so that if the enemy really lifted up the ground to search, they wouldn't be able to find any traces of digging at this part of the hole. Chu Yang worked attentively. He always paid attention to leaving a hair-thin gap on the surface for the circulation of air. Chu Yang didn't forget that if it was completely plugged up, these people would probably suffocate themselves to death deep underground. Because until now, no one had taken a breather, this cycle repeated over and over again. Finally, when everyone really couldn't hold it in anymore, Chu Yang finally showed mercy and said, "You can take a breather now." At this time, they were at least 400 to 500 feet away from the ground. As if they had received great kindness from the emperor, everyone let out a long breath at the same time. Then, they hurriedly took a deep breath. Although they still didn't dare to pant too hard, the fresh air that entered their lungs made everyone feel like they were reborn at the same time. Although the air in this deep underground wasn't very pleasant, who would still care about the smell now? It was already good enough that they could take a breather, but they only took 2 breaths before Chu Yang said again, "Don't pant anymore, continue digging. We have to dig at least another few hundred feet deep." Everyone almost cried out, "This is too inhumane, isn't it?" Even their breathing has to be controlled, but everyone understood what Chu Yang meant. Those that they didn't understand at first, they finally understood after coming to this hole. If they just kept running, even if everyone had 10 times more stamina than now, they would still be caught up sooner or later. Therefore, finding a place to hide was the best strategy. But in this northwest area, there was probably no hiding place that even the Li clan couldn't find. Therefore, Chu Yang simply made use of everyone's blind spot. They hid directly on the flattest plain that was the least suitable for hiding. This was a blind spot. Even if the people of the Li clan had chased them all the way here, they could only sweep past this plain once they saw it. No one would have thought that there would be someone hiding here. As long as they left this place, even if they reacted and wanted to look back again, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. This was the smartest method. Chu Yang didn't allow them to breathe, didn't allow their divine senses to probe, and all the steps. All of it was for this moment. Although this method still had a fatal drawback, for the time being, it was already the safest method. Finally, everyone slowly stopped digging. Exhausted, they leaned against the cave wall and lay down, panting heavily. They could finally heave a sigh of relief. Chu Yang carefully processed the last batch of soil before he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Putting Lang Yilang down, he gasped for air. Throughout this entire process, Chu Yang was undoubtedly the most tired. If not for the treasure that was the tribulation dimension, he probably wouldn't have been able to hold on any longer. Right now, the other 8 people were looking at Chu Yang as if they were looking at a monster. This fellow carried someone on his back throughout the entire process, and his workload was even several times that of the rest. He actually managed to hold on. Such a godly person was indeed worthy of worship. Is Master Lang all right? The 4 officers looked at the unconscious Lang Yilang with concern. He's fine for the time being, Chu Yang panted. However, his purple crystal reversal has already exhausted all of his vitality. Once he wakes up, he probably won't be able to hold on for long. When he was escaping earlier, he had already fed Lang Yilang an incomplete version of the heavy pill. His injuries weren't a big problem for the time being, but the exhaustion of his vitality was indeed a big problem. The 4 officers looked sorrowful. Their heads hung low, as if a knife was being twisted in their heart. "We'll have to stay here for at least 3 days or more." Chu Yang took a breath. Changing the topic, he said solemnly, "Especially the 4 of you. You must go back alive," he said to the 4 officers. The 4 of them nodded slowly and said solemnly, "That's right. We must bring this news back to the law enforcement city." The 4 of them gritted their teeth at the same time, deep hatred in their eyes. "Li Clan. Li Clan." Chu Yang nodded slowly. "That's right. You must bring this news back." The 4 of them nodded deeply. After a long while, the 4 of them raised their heads abruptly and looked at Chu Yang with some astonishment. "May I know who you are?" "This. We are deeply grateful that you stepped forward to lend us a helping hand in times of danger. Please tell us your name. Let us remember our benefactor's great kindness from time to time." Chu Yang leaned against the cave wall tiredly and lay down. Stretching his legs, he smiled rather strangely and said, "Well, it's better that you don't know my name." Even under such harsh conditions, when Cheng Duing heard the strange emotions in Chu Yang's strange voice and thought of the reason, he actually almost laughed out loud. "Why?" The 4 of them were very curious. "Our benefactor saved all of us. Shouldn't we know your name?" Chu Yang touched his nose and gave a wry smile. "Cough, because cough, if you know my name, it'll be very difficult for you." "What's difficult for us?" The 4 of them were even more puzzled. "What you've said really makes us even more curious." Chu Yang spread out his hands. "Because we're enemies." He paused for a while and said straightforwardly, "I'm the person whom you law enforcement officers have announced to the world to capture during this period of time. I'm also the extraterrestrial demon that you've mentioned, Chu Yang." "Huh?" The 4 of them were really dumbfounded at this moment. Extraterrestrial demon, Chu Yang? This person who saved them and Master Lang was actually the legendary extraterrestrial demon who committed all kinds of evil. Chu Yang. Chu Yang touched his nose helplessly and gave a wry smile. "Look at me. I'm so handsome. Which part of me looks like an extraterrestrial demon?" Begging for monthly votes. I wanted to write 5 chapters today, but I really can't write anymore. I overestimated my writing speed. Sigh, I can't make up for my full attendance. Originally, 15,000 was enough to ensure full attendance, but after 13 hours of hard work, I only have 12,000. Sob. My full attendance. To be continued. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.